Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Welcome to Starbase Weekly, the RGV aerial deep dive into images he captured from the ground and air in Boca Chica, Texas. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. Channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Starbase Weekly, episode 68. This is Mauricio, and I'll pass this along to Indian Star.
Hey everybody, welcome. We have a lot of ground photos to show you and some Massey's drone photos, so I'm excited. Thomas, how about for you?
I'm very excited. This is going to be an amazing day. We still have Zach with us, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
How y'all doing today?
Doing well. How about you?
Doing great. Happy Saturday to everyone. And I guess Sunday in
Easter.
Australia.
And Easter.
Easter Sunday in Australia. Yes. So thanks everybody for joining us. I'm excited to be here. And we're getting really close to this launch. We feel like we have an idea of when it's going to go down, even though it seems to be a lot of like, I don't even know how you want to say it. It's just tough to like really guess when it's actually going to happen because we keep seeing the date change. For the it started off on the 10th and now we're hearing the 17th, and just a lot of the details around that seem not very certain, but it still feels like we're getting super close. So, I mean, we can tell SpaceX making a lot of last minute changes and whatnot, and just overall getting ready for that first launch. So I'm excited to go through these images today.
Yeah, they're hitting all these new targets and goals. It's good to see they're able to, push that schedule a little bit, and I think they're getting it down to like between the 17th and the 20th. The 20th is the fan favorite, of course. So we can go ahead and start off with some pictures here. So right now we've got Massey. So we've got some great flyover pictures that Mauricio posted. And this is available for all levels of Patreon. So I definitely would jump in to get access to all of that. There's so much here. It's 360 photos today. So let's jump right in. So there's some big news or big changes off of basically what would be 26.1. It's a test article. Last week we had talked about how on the Can Crusher, the thrust rams were kind of short. it just didn't really make sense, and they would have to make some modifications to it or something else to make things work. They definitely modified something else. So 26.1 got basically chopped up in order to be put on the can crusher. So they went through and basically cut it off. I'm not sure if they did angle grinding or another type of cutting, but they did cut it. And here's about a ring and about a ring and a half, or about ring and maybe 2 feet. So it's between 8 or 9 feet of rings right here that they had to go up. So that was kind of one of those, oh, so that's how they're going to do it moments.
That was interesting, just having talked about that last week. This is not going to fit a Starship aft skirt, so I wonder what they're going to do here. We actually did kind of think that maybe they were going to start doing their puck shucking tests right on the ship here, and that turns out definitely not to be the case, because it's just not tall enough to do that. But it's interesting that they're going this route when they could just install taller pistons on it. But yeah. And this is 7.2, right?
This is 26.1.
Oh, well, yeah, it's 26.1. Okay.
Yeah, 7.2 is this guy over here.
Right.
So it's always just bizarre naming schemes of how they do the ships and test articles and things like that. But at least it's 0.1, 0.2 for the test articles typically. So the interesting part as well is, right when Mauricio is going through taking these photos, he was also doing a little bit of a flyover, and we got to watch it live, and that was kind of neat. We actually do have a clip. Mauricio, would you allow me to share what happened with this, but not the rest of it, but this particular article right here?
Yeah, that's fine. Just don't show the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas, Thomas, on what they may actually be testing with this? I've been thinking about it, and I really don't know. I don't understand why to cut the skirt off, what that means.
I mean, it seems like they're doing just puck shucking in general, but it's weird because there's two things that do not match. Is right here, we were looking at this going, well, this is just right on top of the can crusher itself. It's not meant for putting just rings on top of it. And you'll need an adapter, which is actually right here, to make that happen. So that was confusing. But the real goal is to basically just do can crushing or puck shucking in this case. So you have to hold down onto the skirt with this, and then you basically push up with the hydraulic rams onto the puck. And it's just odd that they're doing this now with this article. I mean, they've got multiple other articles they've gone through and tested, but perhaps this is really one of those setting it up so that they can work with ships, because we could basically use the can crusher to do ships as well. It's just the hydraulic rams are all the wrong size. I don't know why they went that direction. Again, that's just bizarre.
Well, maybe the answer will come to us over the next few weeks when we see what they actually do with it.
Yeah, let me bring up the video real quick here. So it's right about here. So during the flyover, just watch. It's kind of lower quality, but it's good enough to see what's going on to the right, because that's the area of interest. It's just this spot right here. We were talking with Mauricio while he was doing the flyover. What happened there? Do you want to go over that, Mauricio?
I won't go too much into detail, but we got some water in the drone. So
no, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about the we were talking about the I was like, it's on the can crusher, and you're like, no, it's not.
Oh yeah,
that part.
You're telling me that it was on the can crusher, but when I went back to get the ground shots, there was nothing on the can crusher.
Yeah,
kind of going back and forth on that, but
it was just really weird because we were watching it live and it's on the can crusher, and you're telling us it's not. And I'm like, wait, did you take the ground photos after you did the drone shot? And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, what? You just took them? Yeah. Okay. Well, the issue is that as Mauricio was doing the drone shots, and then he was headed back, it started to do the lift. So right here, this is basically when it starts to do that little bit of a lift. You can start to see the gap form, and then it gets a little bit larger and larger, and then I'll cut it off before there. But it's just interesting because we weren't expecting that, and it does actually start headed towards this ring at the very, very end here. So there it goes. There's a lift, and it's just kind of amazing to see all the vehicles traveling around. So remember, this is a live stream off of the drone directly, so you get some artifacts, some other things. This is not YouTube directly.
Whoa.
So that's the drone moving around, but you can see that there's quite a bit of a gap here that they're lifting it up, and it looks like they were lifting it towards here, but they could actually also be lifting it the other direction. We never really did see which way it did go, but I think it's over here where that ring is, because we had the people with the pole lines down here. It looked like they were going to guide it this direction, and then the crane just needs to swing over that direction to put it there.
I might as well mention it since I already mentioned it by accident. So we had as you saw there, the gimbal kind of had a bit of an issue, and we're thinking that it has to do with the moisture. It's just started to rain, so it's not like we made a bad decision by flying in the rain initially. It wasn't raining, and then it did as the flight went on. So what we're thinking is that we got some water in the gimbal of the drone, and the gimbal didn't want to respond to any inputs at that point. And so we're probably going to have to replace the gimbal. But I'm trying out a couple of other things to see if we can salvage the gimbal, but there might be a possibility we might have to buy a new one.
I think we should start a gimbal replacement fund just in case, just so that we have that ability, because this is not just used for Massey's only. You use this in your day-to-day life as well, right?
For the most part, I do use this for the day-to-day use, but it's mainly used for Massey's. I do have other drones that are not, they're pretty much just parts of other drones. And so I'm trying to figure out if maybe I can get parts off of those, but I don't believe so. It's this drone, those other drones might not be compatible with this one. So I'm going to have to figure that part out before the next flight at Massey's.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's something we should do.
I've flown my drones through rain before, and it's always kind of scary. A lot of times if you're going fast enough, it'll just push the water right past it. But I guess if you're hovering, that may kind of potentially cause that. Was it raining a lot? I mean, it looks pretty wet down there, so I'm guessing
that was yesterday's rain, though.
Okay, that's yesterday's rain.
Or not yesterday, but the day before. Sorry.
Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday's rain.
No, I think you were right with yesterday.
Well, today is Saturday.
And he did this on Friday. Yep.
And so it was yesterday of this view, so it works, but it's off.
Wait, what? Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, what else we got going on out here? It looks like they're laying down some road base right there. Are those trees new?
No, those trees have been there forever.
Okay.
Have they?
Weird.
Yeah, and the road base has actually been there for a little while as well. But they finally got the parking lot strips in, and so it's moving along there.
Does it just look different because it's wet? Like everything's just drenched? Okay.
It just makes everything contrasty. That's really what it does to the ground. So we were looking at a bunch of things, and it's like, oh, is this new? No, it's all new. Relative to like a month ago, everything was different, but no, everything's pretty much the same except a little bit of soil, just this little tiny patch right here, and then this big thing of pea-sized gravel. So they're going through, and it looks like placing this in areas like angle? Here.
It looks like mud.
Let me just go right to this angle here.
This reminds me of my least favorite days in the oil and gas industry, when you like go out to site and it's just raining and you know that there's just going to be mud everywhere and there's nothing you can do about it.
You wear mud boots at the oil and gas sites, or
yeah?
Or, okay.
We would have different boots for muddy days, like just the tall muck boots. Sometimes a lot of those pads are like prepared very well so that when it rains, it just like soaks through and it doesn't actually pool up like that. But yeah, ones like this kind of suck.
Yeah, I bet. I'm just looking through just at the tracks, and one thing we saw when we were watching live was this just going back and forth, and and the mud just gets picked up over and over again. But they actually have gone through and put out little posts to say this is the areas where the mud forms. Don't go over here because you're just gonna get stuck. So they're guiding people on the right path, so to speak. Um, One thing that we actually were asking about and talking about yesterday, I keep seeing these little bits over here that I finally noticed. I was talking about these bits right here, and it's just little pipes everywhere. Let me go back to this one right here. There's these Allegiant, basically trailers. We looked those up. So they're pretty much a catch-all company, but one thing that they kind of specialize in, and the generalized version of things is, I think they're going with those pipes. They basically attach the pipes and connect everything together. So they basically go from planning to welding, and basically all the installation of pretty much anything. But pipe is one that they're good at. So I think that that is what they are working on here, because there's not too much else to do, maybe besides a little bit of gravel, but you don't need a couple of trailers for that. Another big piece of news, let me actually go over to this one here so it's a little bit better visible. We have a new set of staircase coming up to Ship 25. So last week we saw it over here. We were like, what is that? What is that for? It's got safety railing, but we couldn't tell more than that. And I think it was just part of this platform right here. The strangest part about it is just how much space underneath that it takes up. I didn't really understand that. I still don't. I can understand that they could put stuff underneath, but a lot of big stuff, really. I was expecting that they would put in stairs, if they're going to do stairs, just basically do a 90 followed by like a 180, then it would basically come out this way. It's just odd that it's going towards all the cryo pipes and everything else. It's just a odd location for those stairs, but it's
feel like
very usable.
without having to worry about like static fire tests or anything like that, they're maybe not really worried about how to situate it, because it's just like whatever's easiest to set up and get access to. I mean, it's better than having a ladder.
Oh, absolutely. The ladder was one of those things where it works, but you have to go up and you have to throw your safety line onto it every several rungs just in case, kind of thing. Where this is just you walk up, you walk down, you're pretty much done. You don't have the other issues. I think they still actually do have a ladder just right in here, or they did. Can't really tell from this angle. But I think that was the major part of it, was just those really two things. So nothing else has changed very much. Just a little pile of dirt, just this one right here, and that's about it. All the rest of this was there last week. It really stands out because of the rain this week.
You're so funny. How do you know that that little segment is new?
I went through and looked back and forth between the pictures, and it was just, that was the only bit that was new.
Thomas, this is why you're perfect.
I know. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we really covered last night when we went over these aerial photos that should be covered now. Let's get a better overall view here. So Zach, was there anything else that you wanted to mention or talk about here?
No, I mean, I did think it's interesting that the SPMTs were out there. I don't think they were there last week, right? So I'm wondering if they're they need two of them to move the can crusher, right? I highly doubt they're going to move that. And also, I'm just kind of curious if maybe the nose cone jail will be moving soon, but I feel like all of that stuff will just stay here. So it was odd to see that SPMT out here. Small detail, but
actually,
we still don't know whether or not they've done that test, right?
Well, I don't think we really looked too much into it, and I'm not seeing many bumps or divots or anything like that in here. It doesn't mean that they didn't test it. It just means they didn't push it to its limits, where it basically starts bending and breaking and stays bent. That's what we've seen with nose cone 12, but this nose cone still looks relatively pristine, considering it's a test article.
Well, I think we
Let's
should
see.
cover the donations really quick because there's a bunch of them flowing in.
There
Oh,
are.
sure.
There are quite a few.
Definitely do.
Well, we'll start off from the top. We have 55 Chevy Guy Steve donating $10 and says, I'm very excited for what's coming. Thanks for these shows. Donation train is rolling. Then we have Jim Cavett, who donated $10 and says, with you on that one 55 Chevy Guy Steve. Then Scat 1975 came in with £5 and he says, ticket fare, choo choo. JK Video, $10, says me too. Scat 1975 came in with a second donation at £2.47, booking fee for 247. Yazada came in with $5, super excited about the possibility of launch soon. Lex Max donated 11 New Zealand dollars. Keep up the great work. Wes R. donated $10 and says, can't wait to see all this in person starting on the 16th. Feel like I know the area. Thanks to you all. Then Joey Bag of Donuts came in. Our friend Joey Bag of Donuts came in with $100 and says, thanks to the entire team for keeping us informed and inspired. We also received a £5 donation from AE and says, thanks for the awesome images. And I'm not sure if Super Sticker also donates, but it says Super Sticker £10 from Leroy Hibbs. Thank you all so much. Ooh, and John Dopker just came in with $10 and says S24B7 first OFT. What do you all want to guess is up next for flight? He's thinking 2710. Thank you all so much for your donations. And that's it for now.
Well, that is a good question, and thank you everybody for those donations. You guys are very generous, and we definitely appreciate that. Hopefully, we'll quickly get that camera fixed if there's any issues with it. And to answer John's question, I think that I don't see them skipping over Booster 9. I don't really see a reason to do that. If anything, like just following what they did with 7, that was the first of its generation, so they didn't skip that one. They also didn't. Well, they did skip Booster 4, but they didn't initially intend to. So I think with boosters, it's less likely for them to be skipped unless they're just straight up going to be scrapped. And I think the only reason that Booster 8 was scrapped was probably just because of the engines, like not wanting to use the first version of the Raptor 2s without the electric thrust vector control. So yeah, I feel like 9 will definitely be the next booster. The next ship is a great question. I would either say, I don't think they're going to fly 25, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But either 26 or 25. What do you think, Thomas?
I'm going to go for 26. Would probably be their next rocket. I mean, 25 technically could go for it as well. It has its engines as well. There's a chance, but it's the twin paradox, which is SpaceX's issue with like wanting to skip vehicles. So 26 would be probably next up on that list, and I'm hoping that it's not a launch that is counting against them, because I'm hoping that is the launch that says, hey, we're going to do in-orbit refueling, but it's going to be just from one tank to another. We just want to make sure we can be able to transfer propellants like we think we can. And that will be the best way to give an answer of yes or no, it won't work. Because it does have its header tanks, but it doesn't need header tanks because it's not landing. It's one of those interesting little paradoxes there as well. So I'm hoping like for 26, but 25 could be. I won't put it against them to use it again. They did do another cryo test on it here at Massey's a couple weeks ago. And it's interesting with boosters. I don't think they're really going to skip anymore. I think Booster 8 was the one to skip if you're going to skip any, because 7 and 8 are exactly the same pretty much, and that TVC is something they want to really test out with Booster 9. So just as you said, it's going to be very exciting here in the next couple of months. And they're going to basically do, I think, about one launch a month here, depending on what happens with the OTF 1, because Orbital Test Flight 1 is going to basically say, do we need to do extra upgrades here on the launch table or other infrastructure? What are the issues that they might run into with that first test flight? And that'll really determine a lot of the launch cadence up until probably their 5th launch or 6th launch. And I guess jumping back Oh, and by the way, thank you for all those donations coming in. That was amazing. Was there any other questions, actually, Mauricio, before we jump into anything else?
Oh, we have one question that came through. Do you think maybe from Hiccup, do you think maybe that S27 or B10 will be rolled out to Massey's? That was the first question. And also another question from Souls Redacted. Could the stairs be redesigned the way to leave room for the SPMTs to move S25?
It's pretty much behind the back of this stand, but honestly, you could be having issues with the stairs if they go the other direction, where the SPMTs would run into it. So that makes sense why it goes down this way. I just thought it would make sense if it was just going back and forth like the stairs on a tall building. They just basically do 180s going back and forth, and it just uses less room. This uses a lot more room, and if you just had it angled at a 90 when you started out, it would work better that way. But I guess it was just whatever tools and supplies they had on hand to make this, and that works out. It accomplishes the job that they were requiring. And there was a second question before that one. What was that again?
It just got deleted, but
Oh,
I think it was something in the words of if B10 or 27 rolling out to Massey's, do we think that's going to happen?
that's right. So Booster 10, it wouldn't be able to roll out to Massey's yet. So we're required to have this pad in availability before we can have the booster roll out. It doesn't mean we can't start working on this here fairly soon. And the other part is that you'd have to basically do a little bit of change of the direction for cryo. So you've got a T that would be right here. So they've got enough to work with in order to change the direction. It's just right now it's just a going to the ship direction. It would actually need to tee off and go this way over to the booster cryo pad, which they haven't done yet.
And then the last question from Scat 1975. Zach, are you doing a deep dive on drainage at Massey's?
No, definitely not. But I was thinking about that earlier today, actually, like why we're just thinking if at some point it'll be set up so that you wouldn't really have water pooling in here, because there's just an easy place to let that runoff go, which is into the river if you have everything set up properly. But no, I probably won't. There's a lot of other things to cover.
And then we did get more donations, and I do want to thank everybody that donated. It really does help out a lot, especially with these drone mishaps. Indian Star, do you want to read the rest of the donations?
I think you should read them. I think you do an excellent job.
You do a better job. You can do it.
Okay. We received a $20 donation from James L., who says, great pics. George donated 100 Swedish krona and says he's Batman. Rocket Prophet donated $20 for all of the hard work done to bring us these awesome pics and vids. Thank you. And that's it for the donation so far.
Awesome. Well, maybe I guess we can move over to Sanchez. I don't know if we have anything else we need to touch on here at Massey.
Just two things, I guess. One is that whole drainage thing that you're talking about. Let's do the deep dive now. They've got a pipe here and a pipe over here, I believe. There you go, done. Now, the other thing that I failed to mention is this. There's a new piece of equipment that's coming in. It's probably going inside the tent with that mystery ring that's kind of a smaller ring. It really doesn't make sense yet. It's probably for test stand equipment. This has basically come along. It has holes at the top, so you can see there's a very interesting shape right here. Basically, it's a top plate, a bottom plate, and then these side plates, and then the rest of it is just structural, basically columns, little columns that'll basically have the floor separated. And I'm not even sure if this is like 4 feet or 6 feet, but it's not that big. It's just an interesting piece that's come in. I think that was the only other thing we needed to mention before we jump over to Sanchez. All right, there we go. And we're at Sanchez. So this is just a beautiful shot looking at the entire build site with Sanchez in the front. And so starting off, we've got just a recap of what we've already seen before, but Booster 4, Ship 15, Ship 20, and Ship 26. And we've got little Ship Booster, or Ship 2, it would have been basically just a test tank, and then Booster or B2.1, which is another test tank. But it was for boosters, and these are actually both water tanks now. And then this is something we mentioned last week, but it was very brief. These are the stairs to the let's see, they can't remember the name of it all of a sudden. The launch table.
Yes. So yeah, we were wondering where these went, and honestly, I don't remember seeing these last week, but I don't know what I must have been doing at that time. But yeah, interesting to see those back there. We were kind of wondering what the deal was with them, and obviously they look like they were already painted when they arrived. So um, you're still thinking that they just didn't want to have to worry about shielding them before the first launch.
Yeah, and the weirdest part is they still needed to put shielding on it, but they painted them, and it was so bizarre how they were like, "We're going to put this in." No, we're not. We're going to wait until later. So I'm hoping that after the orbital test flight, they will go ahead and use the stairs. It's just a whole, like, we don't want to have this be the thing that delays us for the launch, because they're probably waiting for some other parts for it. Because let's be honest, it needed another staircase or two to really reach the very top of the orbital launch table.
Yeah, I was still surprised. I feel like they could have thrown the other shielding on quickly because they already had the bottom set on, and all of the other panels were at the launch site. Like it wouldn't have taken that long to weld it, but that's not a bad thing. It's kind of good that we're getting close to launch and cutting out things that don't necessarily need to be done. So
Yeah. Every week I always get this tank wrong, thinking it's new. It's never new. It's always this tank here, and there's a tank right here that are just laying down that are the new ones they still haven't touched yet. But this is just a nitrogen tank that they use an air gas vaporizer behind it to pressurize the vehicles that sit here. So they need to have maintain pressure in order to be upright. Otherwise, they need a crane, like 26 here has its crane holding onto it while they go through and have the manholes open. So this is not quite attached, but this would basically be for air while they go through and work on the inside of the ship. So that's something to kind of note and be useful to actually have fresh air when you're working inside of these hot vehicles, especially during the summer.
I can only imagine being inside of there in the middle of the summer.
I can imagine it too. I'd love to do it, but not for like too long. It just sounds miserable after a while. At a certain point, you just be like, okay, I need to get out and just dunk my head full of water and the rest of my body just so I can cool down. So I'm just jumping through some images that are pretty much normal. So this one's the United Rentals lot. They've just got a couple of new pieces of equipment in last week, and this week maybe another one, the little forklift that's for the inventory tent. Who knows? But yeah, we've seen Allegiant around all over the place, so that's kind of an interesting one to see. I talked about it earlier that it looks like they're doing the plumbing over at Massey's and maybe other areas as well, but it's interesting that they're on the opposite side of United Rentals here, so I think they're working on the larger pipes as well. So those water deluge lines, they might be working on those directly or other subsystems of it.
Have we seen any more work to get Booster 8 scraps?
Not really. I mean, it's just, this is one of the last two pieces I think they have left. I think they're just keeping them around just for the spare parts. So for instance, the battery right here, they could always reuse it if they needed to, if there's an issue with the battery on Booster 7. Its leads are on the other side, on the right side. It's capped off, so it's pretty water resistant, and it's probably got an IP rating of like 67 or something. Yeah, they've gone through and really just sat it down on a little stand that can accept a booster, and you can see they've plated it down, so they do expect to have it here for a little while. I think they even built this stand just to accept booster parts like this.
And behind that, we have Booster 7's transport stand, and also the other transport stand that came from Florida, right?
Yep, which is 8, I believe.
No, that's even further back there. We can't see that one quite yet from the one from Florida. So 7 right
there's
here
3
is
of
on the
them back
right.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is 7s. This is 8s.
Well, then what's the back one?
This is 7 right here.
No.
This
So
is
you're
8.
saying there's 3 here, right?
No, there's only 2 you can really see. The third one, let me see if I can spot that one in the other photos here.
I was looking for it. I don't see it.
I thought 7.
Here we go. It's going to be one of these. So it's basically naked compared to the rest.
It's okay.
There it is. I found it. It's this one right here. So that's the one from Florida right there. It's very naked still. It needs a bit of work, but they have all the parts for it. It just needs to be put together, and they're not quite ready for it because they have like 2 newsstands that are available for the next boosters.
Yeah,
So,
it's kind of crazy how many booster transport stands they have right now.
Yeah, this is really nice to see how many they have just available sitting around like this. We have, I think, the parts for the hydraulics for this this pin system. So there's 2 guide pins for the booster. So this is one of the 2. This is the hydraulic ram that goes up and down. These are basically the left and right sides that basically keep it stabilized. And then there's a pin that's hydraulic. This is basically the pin right here that goes in and out. That basically goes into a socket on the booster. But they're going to need to change this out and extend it to make it compatible with Booster 9. And then another big change we've seen, they took down the pins for the basically the clamps that hold up the booster and hold it down for transport. They're missing at least on this side. The other side, I think they still have the rest of them in.
So they're modifying 3 transport stands at the same time right now, but none of them are finished.
Yeah, well, I mean, depends on how we're doing with the one for 8 over here. Let me try to actually get a better view here. There we go, that's better. So number 8's transport stand, which I can't remember which one this is. I think it may have been reused on like Booster 5, and I don't know. It's all hard to figure out which one was which now at this point because they get shuffled around like a deck of cards, but you don't know which one is which now. They don't label these. Anyways, they have put the pins back in, and I had an idea of what could be going on. There's this interesting piece for that we call the Mickey Mouse ears. It just is overkill for what another idea could be. It could be that they're using them for tie downs for these hydraulic cables, but it's just way overkill. It just happens that each of the hydraulic lines comes out and touches the left ear of each one of these, and it's just odd that it's that way. And it looks like there might be an inset curve. I wasn't able to tell exactly if it was there or was not there, but it's just something to kind of look out for. If they might just zip tie it down, and that'll still be just a massive overkill because these are probably 1/2 inch thick plates or more. So I don't know why they would do that. So this is another thing they've done, is to basically structurally reinforce them. This is a bit older, but just one of those other things that at least Booster 8's transport stand, the first one to get some of these modifications, has been undergoing.
And it's tough not being able to see the aerial view in Sanchez, that's for sure.
Yeah, the aerial views are amazing when we can get them, but the weather's just been terrible this week. Mauricio, you've already booked for next week. Which days have you booked so far?
And the following week.
Oh, and the following week. Wow.
Is he with us?
I guess we lost Mauricio, or he's just still muted.
He's here. He's just on mute.
Okay.
He'll join us when he can.
But yeah, it's always interesting is that we get a view of overview on each of those overflights, showing like water deluge pipes like this one that tells us a little bit more about where they are with the water deluge system. And there's some other pieces that we'll come up to later, but I have a feeling that they might call it not water deluge, but they might just call it a what was it? You remember the label, Zach?
Are you talking about the flame diverter label?
Yeah, it's really weird. It's like they're calling it flame diverter, but it's like the world's smallest flame diverter, if anything.
Where are those? The little panels that they had back there, are they gone?
No, they're still there. You'll see them.
Yeah, they're at the end of these. They were basically at the Remedios side of Sanchez, so we're still on the Highway 4, just at the first gate.
Well, I mean the actual large, the 6 panels that were back there, the ones that look like flame diverters, but we haven't seen them actually do anything with them yet.
Oh, those, yeah. The ones with holes in them, and they're like 2-layered plates. Those seem to be part of what you kind of came up with, or not came up with, but there was a tweet from Elon yesterday, specifically, I think, related to those and the launch table more specifically. But I think there's a part of it. They could basically be what you described as burn plates, except these would be just for the deluge system.
Interesting.
Because, I mean, their functions are very similar so far. At least what I expect they would be. But yeah, this is the manifold. There's not much new on these parts so far this week that we can notice. It's something we look for each week, and it's always like, nope, nothing yet. But it's exciting to see that they've got this capability, and I always have to point out like this Sprite can or anything else like that, because they're great for scale. For anybody who does modeling or anything else, having stuff for scale really helps confirm your sizes on everything. But my gosh, I'm just noticing this everywhere, is that there's just dust and corrosion happening to the sides of buildings all over at Starbase.
Yeah, they're probably going to paint them like once every 2 years or something like that.
Yeah, I noticed this on the integrations building as well later on. There's these little pieces of paint that are just terrible. Like this one's great, but the rest of them are off by quite a bit. I think I've got it zoomed in for each of the photos. As soon as I zoom in, it wants to zoom in on all the photos. That should fix it. So this is the inventory side of the site. And each week we always go in, are the pipes gone? Oh, they're gone. No, they're not. They're never gone. You see? That's always the funniest part, is like each week trying to find these pipes, and they're always still there.
Yeah, I'm assuming after the first launch that we'll see a drastic like uptake in or pickup in like what they're doing with the water deluge system, and assuming those are part of it, they'll probably move shortly after that.
Yeah, I hope so, because that water deluge system, it's kind of been stalled because of the orbital test flight. We've seen pieces be moved around, specifically to the inventory site, which is the crane yard. So they have like a pipe just sitting over there because it's going to be in the way, and they don't want it to be damaged or start rolling around when the rocket lifts off. So they've moved it out of the way just because it is basically FOD at that point, which would be foreign object debris. I mean, it'd be getting quite a bit to make it move, but all it takes is a little bit of a turn on it, and now you've got a large profile to roll it with. So got a lot of parts still around here. They've been making a little bit of headway, but I think we're going to see it happen over the next couple of months, where we see a lot of this just starting to disappear and get replaced with new stuff. So like these are stringers we probably see on the inside of a booster. But a lot of this has been relatively the same. Just a couple of pieces have moved around. Oh, nice little sneak peek into the tent 1. So this is where we can start invoking Jax by saying his name 3 times, and maybe he appears.
And this is a really awesome picture, having those 2 aft sections back there. It's really awesome just to see the pace that they're working at, and it looks like so ship 28 has been fully stacked, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think 20, 27, 28 are fully stacked. So this is 29 and 30 here. And you can tell, like, there's a little bit more dust on this one and less dust on this one. So this must be the newer one.
I
But
mean, they look ready to go. I'm sure there's still a little bit left to do on them, but it's just crazy how many ships they're cranking out.
oh, it is. It is absolutely insane. I was asking Jax last night what the tallest number they have right now was, and I think it was like 34. Like for the pieces and parts that they have seen come in, that's currently the biggest number they have right now. So it's like, or I'm sorry, it's 32, because I think it was 10 away from the 42 number. But yeah, it was just still insane to think about how many ships they're going to be building. So it's going to be that one ship a month. I think is going to be happening very soon, if not, this month. Even though they're doing a whole test flight of the full stack, that's going to delay them maybe a day or two, because they have to basically clear the site for those days, or I hope it's just a day or two, because it could be a little bit longer than that. It could be like 3 or 4 days if it really gets delayed. But they're expecting to launch, and they can't. They just have to have it all scheduled in advance, of course. Yeah, this left side, this is where they're, I guess you could say, hazardous materials and, what is it called? ITAR restricted content would be, but I think this is really just hazardous materials mostly, which is just drums sitting out in the middle of the pad. And you can see those on the overflights as well, that they're just basically protecting everything else around them, because it's a potential hazardous material that can basically catch fire. One thing that we saw last week with the test stand, or the transport stand for 8, that we can actually see clearly on this side, the plates. They took off the plates, and of course, actually the pins are all missing. Wow, I thought it was just the left-hand side, but no, it's all the way around. They pulled every single pin off of Booster 7's transport stand. And here's the actual pin system for those of you who want to just get a quick view of that. So there's 2 cameras that look in towards the pin and where it's going to be set in about this location from here, because it extends in. And this would go to the booster, but they just need to replace this plate right here to lengthen the whole thing for a Booster 9, because Booster 7 and 8, which use this pin, they basically had a large piece sticking out, which was for the hydraulic system. It was the HPU unit. It was the cover for it, and that's what they would directly connect into. They've since removed the hydraulics and the cover for it, so they don't need that anymore. And they do need to extend this plate just by replacing these, or pulling off these bolts and replacing this entire plate in assembly, and that'll work out pretty well. But yeah, they've got a lot of stuff in their inventory site, so I suspect they're still like cataloging it and trying to find places for it. But yeah, if you're a neat freak, this is the best place to work at, I think, is to go through and just organize everything. This is one of those things that we were wondering what this particular case is. I had the idea of, like, unless we see a bunch of these, it could be a Raptor, but I haven't seen a bunch of them. I've only seen just this one. Zach, any thoughts on this?
That's actually my first time seeing it. I'm not really sure.
It's a strange one.
Yeah, no idea on that one. I mean, I can't tell if that's just a tarp over it right there or what, but
I mean, it looks like it's tarp for transport, but it's very custom made. It's got a whole frame around it as well. But yeah, it's very specifically made, and I think Raptors would be perfect for it because it's about the right size, and maybe you could fit like 2 of them in there if it's a bit longer. But these would be sea level or Raptor booster Raptors. But this is the inventory tent, and I think that if we're going to see those weird plates that you're talking about, that are the burn plates, or what I think are bird plates, that would be for water deluge, they were coming from here, so they may have gone back to here for additional work. Because that is a little segment that you would use during welding. This one looks brand new, which is kind of funny because it's from the inventory tent. It's like, hey, do we have any welding sheets for windbreaks? Yeah, we're over there, aisle 6. But yeah, I think that's what they're using, just because this entire doorway is open all the time because of the wind. It's so nice to be able to get some fresh air in there because it gets pretty hot.
By the way, Mauricio's back if you wanted to ask that question about his flights.
Yeah, so Mauricio, which days this week and then next week are you currently looking at as flight opportunities that you've scheduled?
So as you all know, it's been pretty hard because of the weather. But so next week we have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday scheduled. So what is it? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are backup dates. So we're trying our best to make it happen. I feel like we are gonna. There's a high possibility the weather is going to clear up for next week. So we got that, and then for the following week we have the 17th and the 18th. Hopefully, those are flights right after the launch, after the TFR gets lifted or taken off. And yeah, that's what we have right now.
Wow. That's the one that is interesting one is that Tuesday. It's like we're expecting a WDR on Tuesday possibly, and you're still flying over, but it's going to be just later in the afternoon, and hopefully the weather works out, because that'd be really cool to be able to see the farm just going and everything cleared out like it is. And we do know they've been really working at cleaning everything, just getting rid of everything at the orbital and suborbital side.
Right, and if we do the flyover, we do plan on doing it after. There will be a TFR in place for the WDR. I believe the previous one was 14,000 feet. So we're going to have to wait for them to lower it to 10,000 so we can do the flight on the 172, because we can't get up to 14,000. So.
Oh, wow, that's a problem.
And even if we did, I don't think we would be able to. We don't have oxygen, so.
Yeah, we would have to wait till that clears out. So as soon as they're done with the WDR, that will clear out that area, because I've flown in on United before. It goes right over the launch site. Unfortunately, I was when there was a lot of fog. Of course, it's always foggy in Boca, but yeah, they flew right over the launch site, and I was looking at my phone, going, "Oh my gosh, we're right over it." I'm looking at my window, trying to see it. There's nothing, just white clouds. So yeah, they will open that up so that the regular scheduled flights can go through there, because they go basically right over Texas to land on Brownsville's runway. Okay, so this is actually kind of neat. I haven't seen this before, but it's a clear box, I think, because you can see some reflections in here, or maybe it's a screen, but that is interesting. I really haven't seen this before for the
access hatch.
Yeah, the access hatch, and they've got it like attached over here somehow. On this basically air duct that's coming in.
It almost looks like the air duct is coming in from the side.
Yeah. And can you read what the tape says?
FC Verizon? Verix?
I think I mean, it would be a restricted airflow. I can't tell if the duct actually comes in through the side. Like if there's a hole on the side of the frame, but it's kind of weird. I think it may just be that it's just connected up there, and then when they're actually inside, they just lift it over and put it in the actual hatch. But I don't know. I feel like it almost looks like the cover slides up, and then that's how they get in there. And then when they're actually inside, they just put that down while leaving the actual hatch open.
Yeah, I think that looks about right. And they've got some holes right here for running your lighting and power tools that would not be battery operated. which most tools should be battery operated, but lighting is going to be the one that you do need power coming in for that. Or I guess your tools like welding for any changes that you need to make inside the vehicle or fixes, you'd run it through here. But yeah, this is just a really weird one. I'm looking at it, I'm trying to figure out how they remove it, because it does look like this would pull up maybe. And it's just a clear panel, or maybe they just taped it on somewhere, but I don't see it. Oh, that's really interesting. And how they've attached it here is just like magic looking at this angle. But yeah, they've got plenty of airflow to run up there, and they've got hard elbows wherever they need to. But we're describing this yesterday, that this would basically be a weigh station, like weigh as in weight, in order to go through and find out like how much the ship actually weighs when you install the Raptors. And so they have, I think, all 6. We've got 3 sea level and 3 vacuum Raptors now installed on ship 26. So as soon as we get some orbital test flights out of the way, or WDR and then orbital test flights, I'm hoping we get to see a static fire off of ship 26.
I have a question for ship 26 here from 55 Chevy Guy. Could the purpose of S26 have something to do with it being the lightest you can make a starship?
Could be, but the one problem that would be in that is that they have extra weight for the header tanks. So the header tanks would weigh about 50-ish metric tons, maybe a little bit more, but that's about what you would have there. So if you remove that weight, that would be the lightest you could go. You'd have to remove the header tanks themselves, which is the material, and obviously there would be no fuel in it. That's the major part of the weight, is the propellant and the fuel. So the ship would basically be able to do 250 metric tons theoretically, but you would have to basically go through and upgrade these engines to the like Raptor 2.5s. I think those are going to be the 250 metric tons of thrust in order to really achieve that. So let's see. Oh, it's a weigh station and Raptor integration. That's kind of a way to put it. I was just thinking about where I left off earlier. So here's an interesting one that we were looking at. I was asking the question how thick this was, this steel plate. The answer is just sitting right there, 1.5 inches. So it's pretty good tolerance on that. But we keep seeing these around everywhere. Pieces that say flame diverter. That's kind of the interesting piece, but there's another element to that really throws things for a loop, where it says Cape Distribution Center incoming, and obviously this says flame diverter. So it looks like they were sending these to 39A, but then they got rerouted to here. So either the original flame diverter, which is an option because pieces did come off of that, or it's for what they would basically call the current launch table infrastructure there, which would be potentially a flame diverter. I'm not sure how big it would be, but my guess would be like 3 feet in the air at most. And that would be just at the base of the structure, and that would be to protect water deluge systems or pieces like that would be either halfway buried or partially buried in the fact that they've got like a burn plate or something like that. But yeah, they're just everywhere, and these are thick steel plates for these ones. I went through and measured these. These are 2 inches thick. So yeah, they're beefy. So these are really meant to take the heat and absorb it and then disperse it wherever they can as quickly as possible. And I think that's actually going to be it for the Sanchez side of the site. So is there anything else we need to jump into for questions or donations before we head over to the build site?
We did get one donation from Saturn Man who donated 59 Norwegian krone and says, thanks to all of you for doing this. And that's all the donations we have so far.
Thanks, Gentleman.
I only have one question that we can quickly answer here from Baruda. What do you think is the reason behind lack of progress at Roberts Road? Was everybody sent to Starbase?
Well, I mean, we could jump into that when we could do it right now with the build side as well, because I think it's all related. So do you want to answer that question with that one?
Yeah, we might as well. You can talk about the Mega Bay.
Yeah. So I'll go right here. All right, so I'm pulling up Greg Scott's flyover photos, just a couple of them, just to do a quick comparison. I would definitely support him on Patreon because he has some great material. It's just like Mauricio's, except all over at Florida, and I don't think Mauricio can do weekly flights at Florida and Texas. So it's good to have a couple of these guys out there basically taking these photos. So the thing that we're really focusing in on for to answering that question is this pile of stuff right here. So this is about last month a bit, and this is this month. It's disappearing. Obviously, they're not building the building vertically right here, so it's going somewhere. And the answer, it sounds like, is going to be Boca Chica. Starbase, Texas is going to be the location that we're building that mega bay at. There might even be the chance that one of these cranes comes along as well, because we still need an additional crane in order to build this new mega bay. It looks like what they've done is all of their resources are now being refocused and diverted from Roberts Road directly to Starbase. So they want to get the production rate as high as they can, and either there's an issue with this mega bay, which we haven't heard or seen anything to say they can't build this. So it seems that it's just that prioritization and refocusing of resources directly to Starbase. And the other side of it that we kind of have to acknowledge is that they're still working on getting the the Star Factory at Roberts Road up and running. You can see that they've got plenty of cars. It looks like they're doing a lot of electrical and smaller stuff. We don't see anything like large equipment rolling in yet for machining and tooling. Doesn't mean they don't have it, but they have a lot of power, electrical, plumbing, and other things to do in this building in order to get it up and running and ready for basically being a full production factory. But Starbase, I think, really is going to be the focus. So let's go ahead and jump over to what we've got currently for the Mega Bay over here, or the Mega Bay 2, whatever you want to call it. Could be even the Michael Bay. There's so many good names for it, but the progress on this is going pretty well. They've got a lot of the forms up that they need. There's still a little bit on this left side. You can see they need to basically bring it from here to over there in order to finish it up. But you've got some scaffolding and other elements. They're really just getting that rebar down. Speaking of rebar, we've got some more over here. But this is basically where the floor is going to be at, or just below this point. And then you've got the embeds that are going to be appearing right here, if they're not already there. It looks like they already have the embeds.
Mm-hmm.
So typically they'll go through and cap these off and put like something around it to protect it from the concrete, because you don't want to clean that up. But these are basically what the building is going to be connected directly to for the foundation.
Yeah, you can see the line on the actual formwork back there where it looks like the top of the concrete will come to. So like in the formwork in the very back.
Right about there.
Yeah.
Or no, actually a little bit higher. Because look at the embeds right here. It's going to be up to about here.
Well, you have to leave a lot of the embeds sticking out, right? So that you can actually sit the steel columns on top of them.
So it's going to be kind of between here and here, somewhere in there. Because yeah, you do need to leave it sticking out, but not too much, but not too little. Because you're going to stick a lot of bolts on this. I'm sorry, nuts on these bolts. Because these are the nuts that you have for just a temporary throwaway. They get concrete and stuff on them, but they just throw them away. Or you could technically reuse them if they're still good, but I wouldn't. They've got concrete all over them.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I mean, we've seen some steel show up for this building already. I think that a few images after this, there's at least one pile of steel that we've seen. But there's been a lot that's came during the week that we weren't able to actually find in these images. So I think there's a lot more here than what we're actually seeing.
This is where the flyovers come in very handy. It's doing that weird zoom in thing again.
I was like, wow, good picture.
Yeah, everything's zoomed in, and it's really good pictures, but we're zoomed in just to the random areas of the picture wherever I zoomed on the last. I think I fixed it. So yeah, the areas that you're talking about is this. These aren't the white pieces of steel. These are like Z-girts and things like that that will be for the side of the building. So it basically is the form of like a Z. That's why they would be called Z-girts. And they've got tons of these. So this would be what we expect to see going for the wall panels on the inside of the building. But they're not white, they're gray. But we didn't see any of these up here at Roberts Road, so, or not like this anyways. These are the panel pieces that you basically would be sticking together with the white beams. And those white beams are still missing. I haven't seen them yet. And that's just a trailer in the background, nothing special. I was excited about that last night, going, wait, what is that? And it's just a trailer. One other note is, just in this picture right here, the Star Factory tiles, they keep getting more and more. So I see another row starting to appear. It's just insane how many of those they're getting. But there's so much progress. And the Star Factory, the tiles that are here at Star Factory, like 99% of those are coming from the site in Florida, which I believe is a former heat shield, shuttle tile facility that was Lockheed Martin's facility. And they sold it, and SpaceX bought it. I'm not sure if they sold it directly, but it was one of those kinds of things where it's like, oh, that's perfect. But yeah, Mega Bay is coming very quickly along with all the rebar. It is looking very nice. I was looking back at Sanchez, going back towards the other side of the build site. Thought I had collected all of those and put those in the right place. There's actually a nice little quick view that Jax was looking at this. He was able to identify this yesterday. I think it was just a ship component, but I don't know which one he was looking at, like saying, yeah, you can see a couple of stringers, and it's this part of the ship, and it's like, is that going to be LOX or methane? I don't know. He does. He's good at these things. So now we've got a quick view of some rings at the ring yard. You can obviously tell this is the top of a booster. This is where the grid fins go. Wow, what were we at that Jack said last night? Was it like 13 that we're seeing the forward section of booster 13? And I think that's the one right there.
Right.
My gosh.
It's pretty... I'm wondering when we'll start to notice the ships outpace the boosters. Like, at some point, they won't need as many boosters as they do ships, right? So I wonder when we'll actually see that start to occur.
I mean, I think it would be this year, technically. All you need is to start catching boosters, and after they do the first one or two, they might be able to try for a catch attempt. That would not be outside of the realms of possibilities. They were confident enough last year that they filed documentation with the FCC that they wanted to catch boosters. So I do think that they have that opportunity once they do actually a couple of flights. Now, I see this every time, and the ring yard is just getting flush of parts, and it's all for like booster 13, 11. And then they go through and they just stack it up real quick. It's all gone. This week they stacked the rest of 28. So they did the aft section. I'm just trying to figure out what that strange piece of equipment it's for.
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, it looks like a cart with lots of safety pins. I just don't understand this section of it. Anyways, it's just one of those funny little pieces. But yeah, their production rate is just insane. They are going towards that one ship a month within the next couple of months. They'll be consistently turning out one ship each month. I think their backlog really is going to be at the launch site, and Massey's is going to solve some of that. So now you've got the cryo station. You're going to need to do the same thing for the booster. We need a booster cryo station because things are really picking up.
So those rolls of steel that we just saw 2 pictures back, are those the same rolls of steel we saw leaving the build site the other day?
These could be. They treat them as pet rocks, basically just counterweights. I'm not sure if these are the same ones or not, but they go through and take old stainless steel rolls. So like these could be for 301 stainless steel. They don't need them anymore, but they're still useful because they weigh a lot. So they weld the ends together. So you can see that that's what they've done with these. And then they weld the sheets and then the bands all across the entire thing so it doesn't go anywhere. This basically prevents it from unfurling on the inside, on the outside. And you now have a nice pet rock. That's what they call them. You'll see these blocks all around the work site. It's an industry standard for pretty much every industry, as they call them pet rocks. I think it came from the whole literal buying rocks that were called pet rocks that you could get at like Walmart back in the 80s. So one thing that people sometimes ask is, what is this piece? And I should just go through and acknowledge that this is kind of like a plenum. Basically, it's just a large cavity. What my understanding is, when you have your blocks coming through your header tank, you don't want any bubbles forming, and this kind of acts as a reservoir to hold any bubbles that would like to basically be pulled down into the engines. They'll want to go through and float towards the top. This is a good area for them to collect. And it also kind of acts as a reservoir of sorts as well, so that's useful. But it just prevents a lot of that extra bubbles that could form from, let's say, the header tank or anywhere else, because your cryogenics, they do tend to gasify over time, especially if there's any heat transfer from anywhere else. But this should be basically bathed in LOX up until it wants to do reentry, and then this is basically gaseous oxygen out here, which is warmer, which will possibly induce a bit of heat transfer into something like this, or just the downcomer in general, or what they call a transfer tube. But that goes to the header tank, and it's nice to see that they've got that. They've had that for ever since, I think, ship 8, if I remember right. We were like looking at it going, what is that piece? And it just kind of fell together that that's what it was for. I heard an interesting theory yesterday during our discussions about what this test apparatus would be for.
Anyone?
A new idea, which was this could be for HLS. So if we have 20 thrusters on HLS, this could go with that as a test article. Thought that was kind of interesting. We hadn't really seen or thought of that idea before, because HLS is still kind of a foreign concept to us, but it does make sense. They might head that direction. But the original direction we thought was it would go for a booster. But the weird part is, like, these each go for like a slight upward angle for each of these connectors. So just one thing to kind of look out for. But it is definitely for a test article to test some system. We're just not sure exactly what. It could go for the nose cone jail. It could go for a bunch of other things, but it's some sort of structural test stand, test item. Otherwise, you would not use these plates like this. These are just regular steel plates, and they never really seem to use these except for a testing jig or something to support something else. Anyways, it's just kind of one of those fun little pieces to talk about yesterday.
Yeah, it would be nice to see some HLS stuff happen soon, especially with just how much investment that NASA's put into it. I would be surprised if we don't start seeing concepts for that HLS nose cone soon. But I mean, because for the most part, I think the tank section of the ship will be the same, right? And other than some landing legs on it, but
yeah. I mean, the landing legs is going to be the big obvious one that's like, oh, something's really different here. We were having discussions about that before on Ship 25. If Ship 25, they've got a couple of tiles removed, and the question was, were those the locations for the rings that are not the rings, but the legs? And it didn't quite match, but it was just a fun idea still to go through and talk about and think about, like, when are they going to go through and put legs back on the ship? Because that's necessary for landing on the moon, landing on Mars. They have not done enough. I guess you could call it like a crazy Elon, where you do the kickflip maneuver and basically land upright with a ship, because you're basically going horizontal to vertical. We've only done that a few times with one successful and one partial success until it failed. They really do have an interesting issue where it's like you need more testing, which they've done the most amount of testing by far of anybody else who's even tried anything close to this. I don't even think anybody's actually done like a full reusable system like this with full production. But anyways, it's nice to see that they're really pushing hard. Quick notes on what they're doing here is they're working and doing additional changes to the autogenous pressurization system of the LOX tank on the booster. So they're getting all the plumbing set and reworked or tested. So we're seeing a lot of that happening. And it's just always really odd to see the way that they have it basically hooked up. There's a pipe that goes up and it goes into this main part, but then there's this kind of like dead end right here that's just extended out. I don't know why they do that. Maybe it's just an area of greater volume to expand into for whatever reason they do that.
Is this booster 11?
Trying to think of where this is on the view here.
That's the one that's still being stacked right now. I think that's 11.
Yeah, it doesn't have the top, so it's not 9 or 10. So that would be 11, yeah. Just looking up there to see that they're missing the rest of the booster. Still, it kind of is doing that weird thing where it's zooming in on all the pictures.
So do we know in the images where we can actually see inside of the Mega Bay a little bit better? Oh, well, there we got Ship 28. So I'll come back to my previous statement. Do you want to go? Yeah, there you go. It's just kind of tough to see 28 from that view, but you can definitely tell it's fully stacked now, which is pretty awesome. So we have 28, 27, 26 in the behind the Mega Bay, and then 25 at the Massey side. So 4 ships just hanging around waiting for action, pretty much. But
5 if you count 24.
True. Yeah. 5 ships. Yeah, I mean, it's really impressive, the pace. I mean, they only started stacking Ship 28 a little less than a month ago, right?
Pretty much. That's about right. So they want to have one of these come out of high bay each month, and then they'll do their eventual goal is one every 3 days. I'm just going to double check to see if there's any other good pictures of 28 specifically. There is something about it you were wanting to talk about directly?
Oh, not necessarily. I just was just pointing out with it being fully stacked. And yeah, I mean, on that note, it is nice to see them going back, like, the return back to the ships with tiles on it. And on that note, I'm guessing that's probably one thing that they're doing back there right now, which we can't see, is installing all of those tiles. But I have a feeling that they probably do that. Actually, I don't know if we've seen it when they turn it around, when they rotate it on the turntable, whether or not they've filled in the tiles in there or not. Like on the where they join the two tank sections or the ring sections.
I'm just trying to see if there's any areas where I can tell that, like, this is the join section. So actually, first off, this would be the join section right here. This is where I don't see a tile right here. I see tile down here and up here. So I don't think they've done that quite yet. So they want to go through and finish off all of their hot work first, verify it, then put the tiles on.
Right.
And one thing I'm really excited for is actually Mega Bay has those nice platforms to work on. And I think they're about the right levels. So they're about every 24 feet. They will be able to go through and work on tile sections like this. But the problem is if it's like down here below the floor, because the floor would be up at this level basically, they would be going through and having issues of, well, I need to go down 6 feet and or going up 6 feet, so you end up with the boom lift regardless. I guess they would just need either better flooring arrangements just for that particular issue, or the whole system needs to either change for the booster itself, and the ships, so that they're lower, so you can work on anything else around those weld lines.
The other
thing I would expect to. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say the other thing to note, and I'm not sure if it's the booster or the ship, is the missing cowbell hoods now.
Oh yeah, good point. We talked about this last night. As of ship 26, this is the direction they're headed. So yes. This will provide a little bit of downward thrust, but it's just reducing weight and reduces air resistance. So you've got other little systems like this, which gives it a bit of RCS, but it's just directly from inside the tank. So they're using basically ullage, which is the gas inside of your tanks, in order to provide the thrust. And that's stuff you'd normally throw away anyways. So before re-entry, you dump all of your main tank locks and methane. You just dump everything. You don't need it. One other thing that we've seen is that those cowbells, since they're missing, that they were basically aimed in the downwards direction, they might be going through and using the engines and the engine bells as the area that basically they put all their ullage and maybe a bit of liquids as well. That'll still move you along. It's just a little bit different. But those little bits of thrust that they need, they basically just throw it out that way. And basically that's an area of the ship that's already plenty of valves and controls and openings. You just basically are doing an equivalent of a spin prime without any ignition of the system, and you don't even need to actually really spin it up. You're just letting it flow through from, let's say, the LOX tank. But yeah, they're making so many changes on these ships. It's always interesting to see, like, each little change as they're going along. It's really good progress. Sometimes an idea will come back because it's still such a good idea. We see that consistently from Mark 1 forward. By the way, we didn't really talk about these last night, but every time I look at these, I'm still wondering, what are these for? They look like they're pretty solid systems for, like, transporting something like a booster or a ship, or I don't know, it's just odd the way these are shaped. Any ideas, Zach, on what those would be for?
It's tough to tell. I mean, they just kind of look like pipe racks almost, but I don't really know. Without seeing those, that's like one of those things you got to see from the air, I feel like, and compare it on the ground.
Yeah. I still have looked at these each week and can't really figure them out yet. They're just sitting there, ready to be understood, and they're still just mocking me, I guess.
So, quick question. In the Mega Bay, I can't remember. Is it booster 9 on the right or the left?
That should be 9 on the right,
Right,
and then
okay.
10 on the left, which you can't see. And then 11 is this one right here that you were talking about before. My goodness, that is still impressive. We've got booster 7, and we had booster 8. They scrapped it. And now we've got booster 9, 10, and 11 is basically, the methane tank and the thrust section away from being fully usable at this point. It is so fast on their production. I'm each week just impressed by how much more they have on progress of speed of production.
Yeah, I would love to walk in there just to be able to see what it looks like with all 3 of those boosters in there.
Funny you should say that. This is what Thomas was saying the other day. He was saying that he would love it if you got to do a tour of this place because you would know exactly what we want to see and things like that. My comment was you would be too excited.
I don't know if I can handle it, but I mean, yeah, it would definitely be awesome to go in there one day. On that note, I wouldn't be surprised if Tim does another tour soon.
By the way, if you do go through and get a tour of this place and there's 3 boosters in there, you're going to need a neck brace afterwards.
Probably. And looking at, actually, I'm just noticing on the top of those, that booster 9, you can see those guys up there working.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I've been
Humans
seeing...
for scale.
Yeah.
Wow.
Little humans right here.
Nice shot, Mauricio.
What's funny is that I've been watching on Sentinel Cam at night. The other night, Thursday, there was plenty of lightning, and it was just kept interesting viewing experience to just see these flashes everywhere. But then I saw the lights flashing on it, the inside of Mega Bay for a little bit, and I think they may have had a power strike down the road, or a lightning strike down the road. And Mauricio, you had that same thing happen to you, didn't you? Lightning strike on your power lines or something that knocked out the grid for a bit. Because they had the lights just flashing off and on, like something's off here. But it was only inside of Mega Bay that I saw the flashing going on.
Well, and Mauricio actually lost his power.
Yeah. That lightning storm was going pretty much from like Mexico to like parts of New England. It was a large thunderstorm. And those happened quite often, I think, during the spring. And I was down there in Houston when one went by, and I was just like, okay, I'm running and unplugging all of my in-laws' appliances that are like the TV and everything else because they got hit before, and that was an issue. They had to replace some things. So it's like, let's not let that happen again. But my goodness,
you kind of just reminded me, speaking of weather, it's kind of been like pretty crazy weather around the United States all this last few weeks, especially with like tornadoes all over the place. And I was actually initially considering driving down to Texas, and I talked myself out of it because, excuse me, for just how many videos of tornadoes I've been watching over the last few days. I'm like, all right, I don't really want to drive through Tornado Alley right now in the middle of as that season's picking up,
Went on a family vacation when I was younger, and we were going through Nebraska, and we were listening to the radio, and all of a sudden it goes off and says there's a tornado warning for this county, and we're like, we're going through this county, and we look over, and there's like 15 miles to the west of us, or maybe it was north, there was this tornado going through, and we're like, ooh. But it's definitely an interesting experience to see one of those, and it's better to be at a distance, and when there's nothing nearby, especially, that's better. But unfortunately, it's been bad this year as far as the number of tornadoes. So my heart goes out to the folks who've had the losses of their homes and loved ones, especially. But luckily, I don't think we've had tornadoes down in Boca for quite a while, so
Don't jinx us.
Hurricanes. We had one, was it 2 years ago now?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, it was just this little hurricane. I think it hit a little bit south of us, or south of Starbase.
What is the red writing that you see through the door on the back? Do you see that? Yeah.
It should be the weight.
Interesting.
But the problem is that LED displays like this will be flashing. So it says something, but I don't have the rest of the letters.
Yeah, it looks like it says 79.0 if I was to guess. Or it says no. None.
No. I don't know what it says because it's just missing all those letters. But 79.5, where did you get that from?
I said 0 because it
Oh,
looks like a 7, it looks like a 9, and it could be an 8 or a 0. And I figure there's a point in between the latter two numbers because of the space.
oh, I see. But I think it's the top that I'm looking for that is missing. Because you can start to see
Oh, it goes up
some of the,
higher. I thought it went down lower. Gotcha.
But yeah, this would be a weight. Typically, that's what they will show as a weight, and this will be for the crane. So this is the Ace Bridge crane that they've got right here. I think this is the one that goes up to, what was it, 40 tons?
It probably, if you zoom in, you'll be able to tell.
I'd probably have to zoom out. It's like one of those funny things where you're looking at like artwork until you zoom out, and then you can see the actual numbers and writing. I think it was Monet did that. Anyways, it's just kind of funny how that works out.
You, Rhodes Scholar, you.
So we got another payload section being. I thought that one was already. Oh, this is a new one, huh?
I think it's 29s, isn't it?
It doesn't have tiles on it though, right? Or can
No
I just not see
tiles.
them?
No tiles yet, at least in the photos.
So then that has to be for 30.
It could
Maybe
be.
I'm crazy.
No, I don't think you're crazy. Because Jax was saying we're well into like the 40s practically.
We're getting there. We're not quite to the 40s, but there's probably parts for ship 40 in there as well as 42. It just in the build site, or at least we're looking at the rings that'll be turned into.
If this is 10.2, then that's probably 31. Or 30.
This is the that's 10.3.
Yeah, that should be 10.3 that we're seeing in the back.
Then it's probably 29.
This is 29 right here.
The nose cone?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
I just don't know if this is the rest of 29, but it's odd that I don't see any of the tiles, but you won't really see too many tiles on this side.
But 10.3 is normally for nose cones, right? So what is that?
That's the barrel section. Yeah, the payload barrel section that it also goes through. So this, whoops, let me go back. This door right here, this is where they're coming out through.
Yeah.
So they come in from the other side. Yeah. Well, no, the nose cones come through the main door.
I see.
They basically have two aisles. One is just specifically dedicated to the payload sections. There are 5 rings, and that's basically just perfectly has the perfect height to let these in and out. It's just by like inches that it goes through. It's like, oh wow. And the nose cones are still being produced quite rapidly in here, but they're the thing that has the highest lead time, I think, of everything else. So we'll have nose cones way in advance of the ships. In fact, let me switch over to another view of this.
Yeah, with the nose cones in the tent.
Yeah, I can't think. I don't think there's any opening there.
I thought there was. We saw it. Maybe not. Maybe it was last week.
Yeah, we've got openings other areas, but it wasn't that one.
Yeah.
But this is funny because every week we gotta kind of mention this, that ship 22's forward flaps got put onto ship 29.
Mm-hmm.
And so the funniest part about it is that ship 22 was really ship 21, 22, 23, and it was like they were almost ready to grab the engines off of 20 to stick on this thing. It was the Franken rocket of rockets. It was just an amalgamation of all the other ones. And now we've got basically ship 29 is Franken Rocket Jr. because
or Mrs.
It's just got these extra pieces, and I think ship 30 might be getting the aft section. I think that's what Jax was saying, that the aft flaps of 22 will be going there. I mean, they're still good pieces. It's just they don't use the red TVC compound anymore for the newer ships.
Well, and he said that would probably be a common thing. He also said that what we were looking at to the left of this nose cone is a non-flight article payload bay.
Oh, that's right.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
Finally.
And this would be perfect to do nose cone jail on, with a nose cone to do testing of basically your payload. You want to see how well this works with your customers' payloads, your payloads, because I think they're going to do both at the same time, honestly, before they actually do any actual payload. This would just be for structural testing. You want to see what it can handle.
So this is a test article, correct?
Yeah.
So the section in the center that's like 2 squares, that's new, right? If you go up from the actual payload bay door, go up right here. This whole this seems new in the way that they've done that. There's something there, obviously, but it's unique and new. I have not seen it like this before on the other payload bays.
It is odd that there's a lack of stringers there.
It looks like it's got a plate right there, too, in fact, side by side.
That is very unusual, because you do want to take your loads and bring them down, but I guess they're trying to bring the loads this way around the corners.
Why? Where do you understand that from? Like, what makes you think that?
Well, so they don't have the stringers going vertically down here, so they're not trying to transfer the weight vertically. They're trying to use these basically to transfer, and then you've got larger plates back there that I think are going to be at angles, just based off of the way these are angled here. So I'm suspecting they're trying to transfer loads that would have been coming down from the vertical to the sides, because that's a whole issue, is that you're trying to basically, like, this is a door frame. You can't really put a lot of pressure here. You have to transfer it around, and then you can basically go from basically the entire thing to the downward position here. So the door can take some of the load, but it's just unusual to see 0 stringers at all. So it's just an element that I'm confused about too. I just think that they're trying to transfer loads. It's just the way they're doing it looks unusual.
100%. So back to 29.
Or 10 or 11, and this was the funny thing that Jax pointed out, was these pieces last night.
Yeah. Those are COPV holders that go underneath the chines, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this would be the windward side. We talked about this last night. I was like, is this the windward side? And he had to think about it, but Jax did confirm it would be the windward side. So the windward side, the larger chines are on that direction. And this is something I just noticed now. It's a literal shiny object, but I'm just seeing this this piece back here, and I'm a bit perplexed by it. Anyways, it
looks like an operator for the cranes where they go and sit. But what do I know? Nothing.
Well, I mean, it does look like it's glass, which would be like a crane operator cabin, but this is this is Mega Bay, right?
It's a good question.
I just had to look at the building in front of me right here. This is Mega Bay. So High Bay and Mega Bay look very similar. This one's just wider, but you don't get perspective very well.
No.
But anyways, I was thinking, like, on High Bay, they would have the ability to put a door right there, but this isn't High Bay, so, like,
But aren't the ships in High Bay? This is a...
Yeah, this is Booster.
So now I'm confused. Wouldn't that make it Mega Bay?
Yeah, this definitely is Mega Bay. I'm just wondering why this piece is right there. It looks like it's glass or plastic or something, as if there's a doorway going to the other side. It's just
definitely got a SpaceX symbol too.
Yeah, a little X right there. I see that. But it literally is just a shiny object that I had to look at.
Literally.
I mean, Starbase is full of these shiny objects. Speaking of which, that's a forward section of a booster. And I noticed this last night, and Jax was like, oh, that is unusual. The lift points have been installed already on the forward section. And this would be like booster 14. So they're really pushing to get these out of the...
How many boosters are they going to need? Like, really? I guess you just keep going because you only have so much life in each one, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, we're looking at Falcon 9s, for instance. They're going through and recycling, throwing them away for Falcon Heavies, and we've got like 3 of them coming up for each month. So one this month, one the next month, and one the month after. So April, May, June, we will have a Falcon Heavy, it looks like, launch each of those months as long as the schedules hold. And each one of those, they're throwing away some of the boosters, and a bunch of them, they're throwing away all of the boosters. So this, the center core is thrown away on all of them. It's really kind of an interesting issue that they have, is that they have like their flight leaders or rockets that are like, oh, this one's older, we're going to use it for Falcon Heavy. The same thing will be kind of, I think, happening with boosters here at Starbase, is that they will find a booster that it's still good enough to fly, but they don't want it anymore. So they'll be like, hey, this is the one that we're going to throw away the booster on, because we would like to basically get a little bit more mass into orbit for this particular launch, whatever it is. And so they'll throw it away. That's going to be the best way for them to recycle these things, because otherwise they would not use it anymore. They'll just say it's either scrapped, or like they did with Booster 8, or they get to fly it and throw it away that way. So it's an interesting direction to go. And we won't see as much of that much of the throwing away boosters as we would otherwise. But it's usually the older stuff that it's not as reliable as the new stuff. It's just going to be interesting. Like, what would be the payload for that? It would be like the James Webb on steroids or something, to be like 250 metric tons or something like that is what they would do for expendable versions.
And so what are we looking at here?
This is the same piece that's Booster 14's forward section.
That's right. And that is the lifting point right there, yeah?
That's the lift. That's the lift point.
Actually, I was referring to the other one, the one that you can see off the side up higher.
Well, this is a lift and flip for the rings, but this is the lift point right there.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that was one he was mentioning a few minutes ago.
He said
that's really awesome. That would be an
I did, yes.
I'm sorry.
It's one of those things that happens to me. I say something and people repeat it back to me, and I'm like, yep.
Oh, God, I'm not trying to be a parrot. My apologies. I will be more conscious.
It's subconsciously, like, you learn everything. It's amazing. My brother does it to me every time we talk. It's so funny.
Well, thank you for bringing it to my attention. I'm not trying to be my dad.
Your dad does it to you?
My dad, we would have conversations, and then 5 minutes later, he'd say the exact same thing. It was quite funny.
Like it's his own idea. That's awesome.
Yes, like he had an epiphany. It was quite funny.
Well, it means he's understanding it now and really thought about it. But he doesn't recognize, and my brother the same way, is that we're the ones who said it to begin with. And it's like, okay, that's good. Oh, this is actually interesting. I'm looking at this ring right here. There is so little material comparatively.
They've been using it, that's why.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, it's like, this could be scrap, but they put straps back on it. Maybe this is special in some way that they want to keep it. They can use it to stamp out parts, maybe. Or, I mean, you just stick it into another steel ring roll, and you now have a pet rock.
You never know.
All
right, well, I think that's it for the build site. Ready
there is
for...
a little structure that the little foundation that they made right there, right above your mouse. Looks like it's pushed down. I don't know if they cut everything off of the top of it, or if they
like this one right here?
To the left.
The white structure, are you referring to? Oh, those.
Oh, the sheet piles.
Yeah.
I think they just drove them in further than it was. Because you don't usually go around cutting the sheet piles.
Last week they were like 6 feet up in the air, right? Or higher?
Yeah, they were
Super
like
high.
up here, or maybe a bit higher. And then
But is it that, or did they add more ground and like bury them?
No, I don't think they buried
Mm,
them. I think they just hit them further in.
But then wouldn't the internal pieces be sticking out then? Because they were all around the same height. See the internal
Um,
squares, whatever, just to the right? No, 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 on the right. Right back. And you see how you see inside? Yeah, those. Wouldn't they be higher? Because last time they were like much lower with the walls being so high.
I'm trying to understand what these are. I remember there was some I-beams that were clamping a wall together on the last flyover we had 2 weeks ago. This is one of those things where we don't know what this is for, but I'm the guy who's like from the History Channel saying, I'm not saying that it's aliens, but it's aliens, and this is my version of it where I'm going, I'm hoping this is for the boring tunnel. Like, it's just one of those, like, that would be so cool to have the boring tunnel come along and do something at Starbase. There's no real evidence of it other than the fact that they're putting sheet piles in, and that's something you could do for digging out this area, then putting a TBM in, and then you have to pull out some of the sheet piles or something because you can't drill through that. But yeah, it's just an interesting problem that we're looking at is like, what is it they would need that would be going down? It's like you're building a basement. Whatever this basement is going to be for, it would normally be flooded, right? This is like 3 feet down. You're hitting the water table level where
Why
it
are
just
they
fills in.
electrifying it?
Well,
it's
this
grounding.
Which is being grounded?
they're welding stuff inside of here.
No, but you see that like the thing you use to the alligator clips? Yeah.
Yeah, it's grounding the electrical, the generator.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But yeah, so you use these generators. You could do a couple of different things. You can put in pumps to take out any water that's in there. It also could be for removing or going through and welding. So you'll need a grounding line as well for doing welding. I just don't see exactly what they are doing with the electrical. They've got 3 of these.
Probably behind this mountainous rock of dirt and stuff.
True. It's like, here's the extra cool stuff like a TBM just buried behind all this dirt.
If you move
Great.
forward, you might be able to, because he's very good about taking those successive shots. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the other direction really that I have to go. Let me just double check and see if there's anything. It's just these 2, and maybe
Yeah, I looked through
could
all of them.
see-
That's the only 2 that show it.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's not news until it really is news. If that makes any sense. We're still waiting for what's going to happen here. You do see that there is some sort of frame structure right there, which is really odd because it's like you're bracing all of this. So unless they're digging around it and they're keeping all the soil in, I would think they're digging all the soil out normally, but this is strange because they do have that internal bracing, which kind of throws me for a loop.
Coolio.
All right, well, let's hop over to the integrations part of the site.
Before we get there, you want to do some questions and some donations?
That sounds like a really good idea.
Hey,
Let's do that.
thanks. Sometimes I have some good ones. So starting with the donations, we got a $5 donation from Jim Cabot, who says, thanks for the Discord chats and such for members. And that he's referring to if you are an RGV YouTube member or a Patreon member to RGV, you actually get perks, which one of them is to join us for show and tell. So every time that Mauricio does a flyover and ground images, he will do a show and tell that night where we all get first dibs at looking at what he took. So that's pretty cool. And then you also get to join us in Discord, in the channel while we're broadcasting, as well as before and after. If you have questions or just want to talk to Zach or to Thomas, then you can do that in one of those things, and you just need to become a subscriber either through Patreon or YouTube. So that's what that's referring to. Thanks, Jim, for that. Jacqueline donated 11 euros and says, happy Easter weekend to all and thank you. Rocket Prophet donated $11 and says, happy Easter to all who celebrated. Lyric Bread donated $10 and put a bunch of emojis that refer to the train, to money, and to the plane, the Cessna. Jim Cabot donated another $5 and says, train, train. And those are it for the donations. Mauricio, do you have questions?
I don't have questions here for the build site, just some general questions. The first one would be from Jessica Kirsch. How far does the water table reach?
It depends on where you're at, but typically it's like 2 to 3 feet if the soil hasn't really been disturbed. So, for instance, Lab's tower, when he was building the foundation, he went down about 1.5 feet, and that's when water started creeping in. And like he dug down, and within the day, it was full of water. It was pretty much that level. So he's a little bit lower down, it kind of right along Highway 4. But in these areas, you're talking just feet. That's basically where you're at. So if you start digging down anywhere, we've seen them dig before in around the site, and water just starts accumulating. It's pretty prevalent. The mud flats are always going to be an area where you're going to be able to have water basically coming in, but it's not the water table. That's just the rain and the what is that called? The moon, the phase of the moon. I can't remember what that's called. Where it brings in the water. The tide, yes. Jeez. But yeah, so the tide is going to be the one that affects that the most. Having a moment there, I can't remember words.
All right, the next question here is from Bill. Any guess as to how long to complete the new Mega Bay? Do we know how long it took for the first one, for the Mega Bay?
They're still technically not complete, but they haven't been working on it. So the Windows is going to be the last thing there. But it's taken about 8 months.
Yeah, I think it was 9 months for the first one.
Like but now it should be much faster, no?
Probably not. It'll probably be slower because they have less room to do it.
Oh.
Well, it depends on how prioritized they are to do it as well. It's like, do we really need this, or is this just like, hey, we've got some parts that we need to get this done here. Let's just take our time about it. That might be the direction they go. So it's like 1 year later, and they finally finish it, and it's like, okay. But yeah, they still technically have not finished Mega Bay. Let me show you, I guess. Any of these have the image of it? No, I guess not. But yeah, Mega Bay's windows are still like, they haven't even touched them. We're waiting probably for the test flight. And it's not a priority, really. This would be like office space and all those things. It's just not a huge deal right now.
So we got the same question from Jessica Kurz, but she just rephrased it. It says, how far deep is the water table, or how far down to the rock?
Oh, down to rock, like bedrock? Bedrock would be quite a distance. From what I remember over at like the launch site, we talked about this forever ago. Technically, the launch tower is not at bedrock as far as we know, based off of previous survey data that like the Army Corps of Engineers and other government sites had posted, that the foundation levels would have to be like 400 feet to bedrock. And it's like, that's the height of the tower. So we're just basically in soil for that, as far as I understand. But yeah, bedrock's pretty deep.
And that's all the questions I have. I believe there's a few more donations in insert. If you want to cover those.
Just as you were talking, Thomas, we got 2 more. We got a $10 donation for John Dopker, who says, starting a thank you train for production, SpaceX, as well as yours. Outstanding show this week. And then we have a donation from Yazada for $5 who says, happy, meaningful, and inspiring Easter to all who are Christians. Thanks to Mauricio for making these shows possible. Highlight of my Saturdays. Mine too, Yazada, mine too. And thanks, John Dopker. And now back to you, Thomas.
Well, that whole Easter thing, I just learned something yesterday that was really interesting. Did you know that's where spring cleaning comes from? It's part of the original Passover tradition, which Easter is connected to. So it's just interesting to learn that. It was like, spring cleaning? Really? Wow.
I think that's true for a lot of the holidays that coincide like that, where there are traditions like cleaning and things like that. That's all part of it.
Yeah, it was just kind of something I hadn't heard of, and was like, oh, that's interesting. But anyways, think we could move on to the integration site now if we have any other, unless we have any other questions.
Just the
or donations.
downcombers real fast. We passed those downcombers. Those are kind of nice to point out, and there's actually one missing, which means it's gone in a booster, I believe.
Well, let's see. We've got these two and the third back here.
And last time it was 4 and 4, 2 and 2 on each side. And I thought there was a booster that just got the downcomber recently. I thought 11 did, no?
Yeah, there's a
I don't think
downcomer for
11
a
has
ship.
that section. Yeah.
These are only for the aft section?
Yeah, they go in the boosters not downcomber, the header tank.
Yeah, the header tank would basically be this point on for this downcomer right here. And then this one basically is similar. But this one is throwing me off because there's not nearly as much ribbing as you have on these two. So that one just really confuses me. I guess it's the same function, but it's just a lot less material, and maybe it's an older variety.
I thought it was the difference between ship and booster as well, the two downcombers. 2 sets.
Could be, but the problem is that this piece right here would be for... Oh, this is the other side of it, and we're missing the piece that goes right here.
Correct.
Wow, okay.
I think it's turned the other direction.
Or we have...
Oh, yeah, that's
I
true.
see it now. There's one right here, one right here, one right here. There are 3 sitting next to each other.
Wait, what? I don't know about all that.
This one right here, it's here. There's one, and this one is obscuring the one behind it, which is this one. So we actually have more than we thought, though. So this would be...
Are you
ship.
sure? I think that's
This would
one
be
long
booster,
one, friend.
ship, booster, booster.
Wait, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah?
That would explain this part, like why there's so few of them and why it looks like it's a different design, because it is. It's a ship. So yeah, this is this is exciting to see that they've got all the parts they need for. Oh, let's see. We've got up to booster. Let's see, 12, 13, 14 right here. Holy cow.
Wow, let's hit that integration site. We got some interesting news over there with some crane parts.
Yeah, Crane Man talked about this before the show, and we're like, what? Oh, neat. He called this part of the new lofting jib, but it's for a crane we wouldn't expect it for. It's for the GMK 7450, and you can actually see the 7450 right here.
So basically, Grover is going to be getting some extensions soon, which is really interesting. Any ideas what they might do with that, Thomas?
Well, if you could lift a ship, let's say over at the Rocket Garden, that would be really nice. Instead of having to rent a crane, you just use Grover for it. I'd have to look at the weights, but you're a little bit taller with the lofting jib, and that's going to be the one thing that really throws you off a bit. So normally it's about 120 metric tons that you can basically place on these cranes. I'm sorry, it's not 120. It's I'm looking at a different crane now that I'm thinking about it. I can't remember what the 7450 is able to do at the max limit. I think it's 500 or
Thought it was 400.
550 US and 450 metric.
Okay.
But yeah, that's why I guess they call it either the GMK 70. What was this one? Sorry, I have to look at this again. 7450. That's 450 metric.
Aren't there some other pieces for it back there that are new as well too, like the jib sections?
I see this piece right here.
Yeah. Because I don't think that was there last week. So yeah, I mean, it seems like they're still delivering stuff as well too. I'm wondering, again, like what they might actually use that for. I mean, my thought possibly installing windows on the Mega Bay, but like I feel like they can do that from the inside of the building, possibly.
The windows are already inside the building. Technically, they've already been lifted. It might be to remove the scaffolding later. That's a big one.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
But this looks like they're used equipment. It's got a little bit of patina, little bit of corrosion and rust, so a little bit of use. Same thing with the other part. So this would be part of the lofting jib. But yeah, this is just an interesting element to look at. It gives you extra reach here, where the whole system itself extends out as the boom arm. The main boom arm is pretty big.
And we have 2 of these water deluge pipes. It looks like those actually got moved from the launch site to here. Like they originally had them at the launch site and they moved them over.
I didn't even see the second one on the right here. It's just barely poking out. Let me see. Ah, there we go. This has both of them.
It's doing the zoom thing again.
It's doing the zoom thing again. That's better. So yeah, they've got those 2 here. They're really just cleaning up that whole launch site. This is funny, but it's like you wouldn't expect that these would roll, but they could, and that could do damage when they do a launch with the orbital test flight.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that they kept them on the trailer because it just means that as soon as the launch is over, they'll probably take those back immediately. It's just interesting to see all of this stuff over in this site already. Like, I mean, we do have the possible or a wet dress rehearsal coming this week, so I guess it does make sense to clear everything out before that. But yeah, we even have the maintenance platform or the Raptor platform. That thing looks so much taller when you see it up close like that.
Yeah, this thing is huge. I mean, literally, it's just a staircase and then a lifting system to be able to go up and down. So they will basically bring this out underneath the table, or from underneath the table. They'll bring a Raptor over and set it down, and then they'll bring this whole thing in underneath, and then the Raptor is moved around a little bit on the platform to just get it correctly aligned. After they've actually lifted this whole system, so this goes up and down. It's like a scissor lift that's elevated. And it was amazing. Like, we were seeing this sitting around forever. We knew what it was for. We looked at it, studied it, and it was like, okay, this is what it's going to be for. And then finally it gets used for ages. They use it like every week pretty much to install or fix or work on Raptors. And then they come out with a new platform that just gets lifted in place. And it's like, that doesn't do the Raptors, but maintenance. And we call that one BART because it's just a big old platform that that really can do a lot of maintenance underneath with the engines and everything else. You just use a ladder for goodness sakes. So you don't even have to go up and down. It's so much safer too than this one. But I love how they move along with different ideas. And the grass is coming in pretty nice. This is the area that I think SpaceX had to reseed. It's not their property, but they were using it for gravel and other things. I think
Parking for a while.
Yeah, they used it for parking. And they put rocks down to say, please don't go in here. This is not what you're supposed to do. You'll still see like an ATV try to cut across these kinds of places all the time. And it's like, no, don't do that. So usually it's through the corner and that kind of thing. But this is looking really good. This property, from what I understand, would be, let's see, Texas Parks Department. So that goes basically all the way up to the federal level because they are the ones who technically manage it. But yeah, there's another side of this this equipment for the crane. I definitely have quite a variety of folks in here that have like their preferences. They've got people who love the cranes, people who love the ships, people who love the rockets. And speaking of which, that's a really nice cameo there.
Yeah, for people who like the launch site.
Yeah. Just quick overview. Anything in here that we're missing? Counterweights? Okay, I think we're going to go right to the launch site.
Good call, Thomas.
All right,
That
so
was actually a cool picture seeing the launch tower through the...
Yeah.
Very artistic. Mauricio, you have a future in photography.
Yes, he does.
So we're on the beach now. Is that an alarm right there?
No, this I'm pretty sure is NSF's camera at the beach. So they have a new position. This part right here would be the camera. So this
Aha.
is the camera. Then this is basically the mast. You've got your cellular, I think, right through here.
Yeah, no, and it's a
Or I'm sorry,
360
that's
turning
Starlink.
view.
So that's not cellular. I think that's just an inverter and some other equipment protecting it. And then you got your solar panels right here. So it's just right on the beach. That's, I think, their new view for the launch. And actually, it's pretty well protected up until you have the panels. But it shouldn't be too much debris or wind this far away. But who knows? It's a risky place to put really anything as along the beach there. And I think it's doing that zoom thing again. Yes, it is.
I think you need to save your settings, but we can do that later.
Well, I think I saved them beforehand to turn this on, and I regretted my decision. But there we go. That looks better.
Oh, I know.
Okay, is there
Sorry.
anything that you wanted to go through, Zach, that's coming up in these photos, or?
I'm just looking at the tank farm. Like, I haven't had a chance to look through those images yet, but I know they were doing some odd welding back there, but I can't really see what it was, so not much to comment on there. But
Ooh, this is actually a really good shot right here of the basically the fire suppression system right here. So you've got the pipe coming down, and then it kind of disappears. Where did it go?
I think it turns to the left.
Oh, it goes over this way. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is just the stand that holds it. I'm like, how are they making the pipe the stand as well? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we have like I said, I think they were doing some welding back there, like in that area, but I don't know exactly where it was, so I haven't had a chance to actually find out what they're adding back there. But yeah, I mean, not a lot of changes really at the tank farm. It seems like they've finished up with most of the like covering up all of the cryotubing and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, they're really ready to go as far as the tank farm goes. It's I wonder how long like if they'll leave those HESCO barriers after the first launch, or if they'll get rid of them. But yeah, interesting to see those there. Like I'm thinking that maybe they'll put an actual berm there once they're able to, or if they just extend the original one.
They'll have to get the Army Corps of Engineer approval to go through first, and I think they're going to really work on that after the test flight.
But why, if they have the HESCO barriers there? He's just replacing that with the berm.
Because they're temporary. These are temporary setups. So they're really fast to basically set up. You have a cloth system that
understood. Yep.
That
you're just filling dirt into them.
Yeah, throw in some dirt, and they kind of like, because they're filling into each other, they interlock as well pretty well. And it's a good system for being a temporary berm for protecting your electrical bunker over here. But yeah, for the immediate future, I think they're just going to go through and keep this in place until they get that approval. Extend this all the way over, just a nice straight line, and you don't have these anymore.
And that black box, whatever, shipping container is for their FTS?
Probably. I mean, it says explosives, so I would assume that there could be explosives or anything else that would be hazardous material that you do not want on your launch site. Good place to put it is out and away from everything else. And
but still on the launch site.
It is on the launch site, but it's away from everything else. So if this goes, sure, you might get a little bit of debris elsewhere, but it's just things fluttering down, not a real problem. So as long as it's lightly contained, this is just a light container. There's not a whole lot of structure in it that would hold that pressure in. So that's good. One thing we talked about last night, which was funny, was what it's going to look like after the orbital launch. It's going to be a whole lot more of this, just everywhere, I think. But this is going to get darker.
I'm excited to see that stain. I don't think it'll go everywhere because it deflects around the leg. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to get darker. It's going to be really crazy just to see what this launch site looks like in a few weeks after that.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm actually excited to see that in person because As much as I love going through pictures, it'd be really cool just to be out there. I feel like what I expect is after the launch to just be able to smell it still for some reason, you know? Like, oh, a launch definitely happened here. I can smell it.
Yeah, I actually asked Connor because there was a waft of smoke coming his way after they did that 31 engine static fire. And he's like, nah, I don't really smell anything. It's like, you don't smell dust? You don't smell anything? Nope. And it's kind of going above his head, but I would have expected to smell just a slight tinge of like burnt hair or something. I don't know. This is actually kind of neat. They're actually connecting the two suborbital pads together. I just noticed that now. I'd seen that they've gotten the formwork ready on the other side, but this is the first time I've seen it almost ready to enclose together for the two concrete parts of the berm.
Oh, that's the corner?
Yeah, it's the corner.
Oh, I was like, what are you talking about? I thought that was just like in the middle of the pad B one.
It's pad B and pad A. It's just the corner, and you can't see the corner because it's just a pile of dirt.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they got that pad pretty clear as well too. There's not much down there, and it does. I don't even think that they'll be painting the launch mount because everything looks painted as it is. It's not like as crisp as it is usually, like right before they do a static fire test. But I mean, I don't really see them needing to do anything else to it. And one thing that we found out from Elon yesterday, which I guess we could have kind of assumed, even though we never really actually said it, was that these panels on the outside around the top edge are actually stainless steel, which makes a lot of sense. Also explains why they don't need to paint them. I'm not that experienced with welding, though. I wonder how easy it is to just join stainless steel to, regular steel. I don't know what type of steel they had for the actual canopy and whatnot. But yeah,
I don't think that's stainless, but it almost looks like it could be.
Well, that's what he said in his tweet.
I'm thinking of these parts. The top part, it kind of looked like it was, but these ones, I don't know.
I mean, they look like stainless steel. Now knowing that they look like stainless steel.
Not sure what variety of stainless steel they would be. It's not like the 304L or the even 301, but it would be a variety, I guess.
The less shiny kind.
Exactly.
But yeah,
Opaque.
So they also have panels on the top of the launch mount, and we obviously aren't going to be able to show it from here. I'm kind of working on with Ryan Hansen Space on an animation to be able to show that, but there's an interesting like air gap up top, like where the panel doesn't actually touch the roof or the deck, I guess. So there's like a 2-inch gap in between it or something like that. And as we were like trying to figure all this out and figure out how it goes together, we were actually wondering if they would run water through it. And at first we were like, oh, there's no way, because you would really have potentially, depending on, if the water's just sitting in there or if it's being pumped through, like, I don't know how long it would take for that to start boiling. And then you'd end up with like a bunch of steam in there, and that would cause issues as far as like building up pressure and whatnot. Oh yeah, you can see it pretty good from this image.
Yeah, this is from SpaceX. They posted this image, and at first I thought it was the drone, but it's actually from their camera. What was that?
Is this the enhanced version?
I can create an enhanced version real quick if you'd
I
like
think
me
it
to.
is. No, we can see it pretty well, but yeah, you can see those plates up there. And on that note, you will also see that they got rid of the stabilizer pins. Yeah, so now I would say that's the only, well, not the only, but that is like the nail in the coffin for they're definitely not going to try and catch this booster, even though we weren't really expecting them to. It's like one of the only definite signs that, yeah, they're not going to be able to do that, because they wouldn't get rid of that if they were going to. But that's actually interesting, though, because I'm wondering, in the future when they are catching boosters, like you wouldn't want to remove that stabilizer pin. So I wonder what the permanent solution is going to be after this. But
I have a question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where is the gap that you mentioned between the plates and the top platform? Is it where the currently where the railings are?
There's a gap in between the plates you're seeing and the top of the deck.
So are we seeing the top of the deck, or am I confused?
There's plates on top of the deck.
And you're saying there's a
Yeah,
gap
so
between
these
them.
plates right here
Got
that
it.
we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Here, let me bring up something from Chrome Kiwi he posted last night. This is a quick Google SketchUp that he created for it. So the actual plates would look like this is kind of what we expect. The question is, are there holes here that we saw on that previous image? Or is this where it's basically connected and is being welded to? So like you've got this structural element underneath. I was thinking it was going to go the other direction as far as these, but the question is, are they structurally like welding points here? And that's what you're seeing it bleeding through, or from one side to the other is to connect these plates together. Or is it, each one of these a whole? So going back to not that picture, this one right here. Are we looking at holes here? Because that's the question that kind of comes up. You were talking about specifically about the Elon tweet there. He's talking about putting water through these. And these would basically be burn plates, as you described earlier. I kind of think that these look really similar to the same system that is going to go at the water deluge system as well. It's got the exact same view where it's like this.
I don't think they have those in there in between though.
You don't think it has these or something to keep the plates separate? How are they keeping the plates separate in your opinion?
There's another piece on the edge that maintains the gap. It's hard to explain it without showing the render. It's almost finished though. We'll be able to show it hopefully next episode or next next live stream. But yeah, I mean, when he first tweeted that, I responded to it and I was kind of thinking, wait, are they already doing this? Because and by his tweet, he does say that it's a future thing, but a lot of times some of these things are actually in place, and with the in place already, even though it sounds like it's a future thing. And in particular with this, anything that's happening on the inside of the launch mount, we can't really see it. And so there's an actual the fire extinguisher system inside of the launch mount. I believe they have a nitrogen one, but I think there's a water line that goes in there. So they could easily tap into the water line that's on the inside of the launch mount and I don't know, cut a hole in the ceiling if they really wanted to and just run a hose up there. And could be just as simple as that. So it's not impossible that they could have already done something like that. And so that's why I was like, whoa, is this something that you guys have actually done so far, or is this just a future thing? But either way, it's really interesting just because as we were figuring out how it was actually designed, it just kind of occurred maybe this is meant to have water run through it. So it was interesting that he actually ended up saying that without asking, because I didn't ask about that.
That's awesome, though. It's like he wants to tell you stuff, and that's really neat.
The only times I ever get responses from Elon, he's telling stuff that I'm like, wait, what? I can't believe you just said that in a tweet. It's never something basic. It's always, it feels like a scavenger hunt almost, to figure out whether this is real or if he's just saying it. But yeah, it's interesting. Just, oh, whoa. Hey, go back to that view.
This one right here?
Yeah, look at those little patches on the ground.
These ones right here, they went through.
Right.
Oh, these ones?
Are those? Do you think those are concrete boxes where pipes are supposed to run into for the deluge?
There's the doghouse.
Wait, those are boxes.
Yeah, so this would be the deluge would be coming in back over here.
Whoa, we definitely thought it was going to come in from a different angle. That's interesting.
Let me bring up a flyover from the 24th of March, because I think that's the last one we have here. Because a lot of this really kind of changes on your perspective. Because it's revelations like this are always huge. Let me go to the back side of the site. Just trying to find a good image here, so it'll take 1 second. All right, this will be probably close enough. So here we have the backside where there is the little doghouse right here, and there's those plates right there. We've got that drainage system that's right here, which is like right where those plates are, so that's kind of confusing. But this is a pretty straight path if you went this way to water deluge, but I think we're gonna go both directions. I think we're gonna go this way, and we're gonna go this way.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Really having that like piecemeal of a water deluge system is still the idea that makes the most sense to me. Like these pipes are, by the way, they're already buried, so these ends, which are angled, are pointed at a 45-degree angle going this way. We'll see those in just a second. But this is just crazy to see how much they've already done. Like these are gone. These were pulled. This one I think was pulled out, and these two as well. They actually went through and cleared off like most of this stuff. Anything that could move or fly, it's gone. It's been moved somewhere else, except the dirt, which they'll have to kind of wet that down and tamp it down, and that's a whole thing. They've gone through and done some stuff with the HESCO barriers over here, added a few more. I think they added a few more, and then they removed the dirt or something, because, yeah, these are short.
Yeah, it looks like they chopped them down.
Well, you don't want the engine impingement ripping these up and push them around.
Oh, I mean, I was kind of hoping to see that.
You'll see plenty of debris, trust me.
And I guess looking from this angle, we can't really see a box. Like I don't see anything down there.
No, I think it's literally just a plate of steel. Would probably be over in this direction if it's still there. They may have removed it because they're removing a lot of stuff.
Oh, hey, you can see that pipe sticking out of the ground from there.
Yeah, there we go. There's the 45s that I was mentioning before. I guess I forgot about that.
So wouldn't his boxes be to the right, like closer to the other side?
Well, the doghouse right here.
Yeah, and so it would have been perpendicular to the doghouse, no?
Let me go back. Doghouse is pointing right at it, so it's just right next to the doghouse.
Oh, doggone it. All right.
I love that. Doggone it. Yeah, I don't see them. They're missing. I think they were literally just plates to put down for something. It's just odd. I don't see anything like even like the... Well, actually, this is pretty flat right here, as if there was a steel plate in here. But I don't see it otherwise.
So one thing that this image is missing is that they've gotten rid of... Oh, actually, they were in the process of getting rid of the scaffolding during this.
Yeah, this is all gone. All of the scaffolding they're sticking up vertically and horizontally, it's all gone.
And if we see it from the other side of the table, we can actually see them as they're removing it, I believe, too.
Let me jump to that real quick. Yeah, so this is them over here removing the scaffolding. Literally, he's grabbing it to remove it. This one's removed on this side. And then they just stick it on the boom lift and bring it down.
I really love the way it looks without the scaffolding on there, without the rails. It's going to be really cool to see on launch day.
Yeah, it's really funny is that the vertical posts, like I swore that they were welded in place, and they're gone. So it's completely clear and flat. And they had to remove the posts and the railings anyways in order to put those plates down. You can kind of see where the top of the lip of the plate would be at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an interesting number of changes on that launch table. Like they're really focused on it, and it is very much stage 0. It is the system that starts all the systems. It's required for the rocket to start, but the rocket's not required to keep all of this stuff with it. It's the hold up, the clamps that hold it down. It's everything. So I think that there could be like a little meme that says from Booster 7 to the basically the launch table, it says, "You are my everything." And I have a little heart in it or something, but yeah, there's so much going on.
That is a man basket, the SpaceX lifting thing.
Yeah, that's the windmill services type of boom lift.
And it goes
It
up
is
high.
huge.
Yeah.
It's basically like a crane. It's a crane that then extends up even higher.
But they have a basket on the end of it currently, so I thought it would be like a man basket. It seems like they're using it for
It's right
that.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, these are huge. So like they put this all down facing, like it comes out to be like right here. It's where it hangs out on the
Yeah,
front.
we saw it come in actually. Vixie pointed it out.
Yeah, everybody's wondering about like how tall this would go. From my understanding, this doesn't reach the FTS, at least for the ship. For the booster, sure, this is perfect. So I think they will need to do a destack operation and restack operation after they go through and install the FTS, because I do not think they've done that yet. I know Nate has said that they were playing around with it a week or two ago on the ship side. I just don't think it's really installed yet, because it's going to be something that takes a bit more time and finesse before you can basically go through and install it. And I think there's also part of it would be FAA. It puts it under their kind of jurisdiction that you've installed explosives on your vehicle. It's like you're basically going through and passing some thresholds that you're notifying the authorities to say, yep, we've installed the explosives, we're ready to fly, we've passed all of these marks. Maybe it's the other way around. So one interpretation is it's permission to install stuff, which I don't think it would be. It's just acknowledgement to say we've done it, we're ready to go. That's, I think, the requirement.
Yeah, one other thing I noticed them change out on the opposite side of the launch mount, they changed the doors on the booster QD. Actually, they must have done it on both sides, right?
Let's look.
They did do it on
So
both.
they did. It's a brand new hinge and plate. These are beefy.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the guys watching.
Oh,
too.
yeah. We usually don't like to show their faces. I'm sorry about that, but they're looking at them and they're like, "There's a guy with a big honking camera. Let's look."
You can zoom to the top of the plate.
Yes. There we go. Perfect.
So yeah, this plate is much thicker than the one that was there. It's like, I think almost 2 to 3 times thicker than the one that was there. And I also don't believe the other one had the bolts on the side of it to actually bolt it into position. But yeah, I think maybe they were worried about this door getting blown off, which is interesting. According to Elon, he said that there's going to be a lot of erosion on the steel, which is going to be very, very interesting to see. I don't know if we'll be able to tell the difference, but
before and after you will. It's how much paint is gone and how much of the bare metal can you see.
Right.
But yeah, the discoloration is going to be interesting. When you hit certain thresholds of steel, it likes to change temperature, or it changes color based off temperature. So stainless steel, as well as a bunch of other steels, will do that. Aluminum, it doesn't, but we're not dealing with aluminum, and that's why it's always like welders are saying, well, I could weld an aluminum can. Well, you don't see the coloration where steels you can. So you get these really beautiful rainbow patterns. And let me see if I can grab the other side of the QD here. Perfect. So this is the other side that we were talking about. So these panels were replaced as well. So all 3. And these actually look like beefier hinges too.
Oh yeah, they definitely are. They shaved off the other hinges and put new ones on.
The way you say that, it's like they just took a razor blade to shave them off. It's like, yeah, those weren't good. I just took them off.
Is there still a gap on the bottom one though?
It's open.
That's open? Oh.
Yeah, so there's a large gap right there. They've got a harness inside because somebody is working in there.
Gee, mini crickets, okay.
Yeah, this is how you know don't close the door. I'm literally inside right now. fellas. Oh, that would be...
I wonder if you really need fall protection while you're inside of there, though.
It's not exactly fall protection, but you could technically climb up things in there and need this. But you're also past the scaffolding, which is interesting because like this was the last area that they removed the scaffolding on. And it was interesting also because the people removing the last bits of scaffolding, there's not much to tie down to. So they were like looking around for places to tie down. It's like, well, I guess this is one of those, hopefully OSHA doesn't see us. But I think they were pretty safe about the whole thing. And this is a pretty wide platform, and they just went right into the boom lift basket from there and climbed on down. That's pretty much what they were tied into for the last bits. But yeah, it's always funny to look at what they're doing.
On the HPU cover, the two circular disc things that we're saying are sensors potentially, or...
Starlinks.
Yeah, that as well. They vent, because we saw that this time, or last time.
There's a vent right here.
Oh, from there? No, it vents from the top, though, it looks like, at least.
Oh, it shouldn't be unless there's a leaky line in there. So this will vent.
It's leaky line. Maybe it's that then. It does definitely look like it's coming up, and if you think about it, it could go up, and maybe it's only visible when it hits that
there
area.
are some gaps here and over here, and like everything is technically could get a bit of flow through there. So if this line is open on the other side, so it's a cut line or something, and it goes to vent, and it vents out of here, I mean, that's not good, but it should be mostly venting out of here.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I love this ship. It's stuck with us for so long. It's almost like family. Now we need to get rid of it.
Wow, just like family, huh? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time when you're like, oh great, time to move on, out of the house.
Hey, Thomas, I'm actually going to have to step out of here a little bit early today. I'm dog sitting for my brother, and she's looking at me with that look that says I have to go. So
You gotta go. You gotta go.
yeah, for sure. But thanks for having me on today. Well, I guess I'm always on, but nice to see all of you today and talk to everyone. And really excited for this coming week with the wet dress rehearsal. But yeah, I will see you all next week, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day.
See you.
All right, take care.
That's just you and me now, kid. You, me, and Mauricio.
Yeah, and we've got a little bit less than 30 minutes, so we'll make of it what we can.
Yes.
I see Dave has pinged me and asked if you look at the bottom of the scaffolding post, you can see the screw clamp on the tow rail. So let me go back. So the screw clamp on the tow rail. I'm not sure what that actually means now that I think about it. There is...
Okay, I'll hop in here, Thomas.
Hey, Dave, welcome.
Zoom in on the very bottom of any of the verticals, and you'll see a little U-shaped clamp with a bolt through it that is clamping on to the edge of the OLM, and that's how they support the verticals.
Okay, so these two right here, and then the same thing on the right-hand side. That one's not great, but
yeah, it was in most of the pictures. So I was wondering that, and you finally zoomed in really pretty, and I'm like, oh, there's the answer to Thomas's question.
Well, my final question was like, what were they attached to? Like some of this stuff was over here, and they were over here, or the basket's over here. So it's like,
Well, it looks like there's a little kick rail around the top of the OLM, and so that's what they bolted to. Is they have a welding clamp that squeezes on the vertical steel edge, and that holds the vertical post in place, and then you just put all the cross beams in.
Yeah, and it's the tie-in for the safety line. So like right here, you have a tie-in that's being used right now for the guy that's in here. But it's always interesting to say, where are your tie-in points? Like obviously you can never tie into something like this. But we have seen them tie into the booster at different locations sometimes, where it's like, yeah, there's a person who will use these occasionally when they're up there and there's nothing else to tie into. But it's pretty rare. And usually it's eyelets. That is their favorite place to tie in.
So, Thomas, we have a special request.
Yeah, what's that?
So, Scat 1975 is hoping that we can wish his son a happy 16th birthday, and his son's name is Aaron. So, happy birthday, Aaron. I'm sorry I didn't get Zach before he left, but we'll get him next week for sure.
Happy birthday, Aaron.
Happy birthday, Aaron.
Mauricio, you're going to make it a... There it is. Sorry.
Yeah, happy birthday, Aaron.
Yay. That's it. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of birthdays this month. Mine's this month too.
Everybody's. Grux is on the 17th. His is on Monday.
Mine is Wednesday.
That's right. Yours is the 12th. Oh my goodness. So many birthdays. And today's Orbitalee's birthday.
Yeah, there's 4 this week, I think, among the group.
Yeah. Benedict's birthday was like 2 days ago. Everybody's birthday, man. All you April kids.
Yeah, we always like the, I think I'm a Taurus, so that's like the April.
You are? And I think Aries. The first bit is Aries, and then the second bit is Taurus.
Apparently I'm a Ford.
I would imagine. I actually would call you a Carmen Gia, but who knows?
Well, as long as you're not a Pinto, you're okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is actually funny that I didn't see these covered up last week, but they are this week. These were the areas that had concrete poured into the legs. But these are the most clear images I've seen of this. So I guess they were marking down where they needed to do this, and then they painted them afterwards. They're really finishing up all that prep work, or not prep work, but the final, pieces are coming into place for the entire launch table.
I think
they
prep
really
work is
are
the
ready.
right term.
It's prep for the booster, but like usually prep work is before you actually start working on things. They've been working on that table
This
for
is prep work in advance of a
2
launch.
years now.
Yeah. This is all in advance. I mean, stage 0 is all about a launch, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that 39A's launch table goes together a lot faster, that they've learned all their lessons. And
yeah, that image you showed, was it last night that you showed that image, the Saturn 1?
Oh, Greg Scott's photos?
That was really cool.
Yeah, that was neat. Let me see if I can bring that up real quick. I think I still have his stuff in front of me, so this will take just a second. But
we saw them do the dance to get that faceplate on the ship, the QD. The other day, when they had all those people up there. Dave, do you remember?
So this is the launch table of, I think, Saturn 1. This is a Greg Scott photo again. So support him on Patreon. Actually, a big shout out to a bunch of people here. So if you haven't done this, you should definitely take your time and look through and join Patreon for RGV, obviously. Because each week all the ground photos are released to every tier. So that's a big one that you can go for. And then Greg Scott, he does the flyovers of Florida. Then we have Starship
SSG?
Boca Chica.
Well, oh yeah.
Starship Boca Chica, that's Maria. She apparently just has a huge category of photos. She just told me about this a few minutes ago, actually, that she's gone through and has some high-resolution zooms on a bunch of things. So you should subscribe to her stuff. So
there's a bunch of people. You're not going to get
Starship
them all.
Gazer.
Yep, Jessica
I'm going to do them all.
Kirsch.
Jessica Kirsch.
Chief, and why?
Yeah, that Chief. I've tried finding this one.
I don't think he has a Patreon. I think it's through.
He doesn't have the Patreon. I think it's just What About It is the Patreon, right?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, I was struggling for half an hour yesterday trying to find it because I'm going to go through and basically bulk the entire list and go into their higher tiers here.
Don't forget Lab Padre.
Lab Padre, yes. Oh, now you've made me forget all the rest.
I made you forget the rest. How's that even possible?
No, just teasing.
There's a lot.
I think that's the majority of them.
Well, you have NSF, and then you have the people within NSF.
Yeah. So, and then CSI Starbase.
Of course.
Forgot about that one.
That's a huge one.
And then there's Carlos Nunez, Starbase Surfer.
Yeah.
As far as pictures, his is the most artistic of everybody else's. That's what he's there for, is the art and the amazing surreal shots that he does. Mauricio, you're definitely in the runnings, but I think Carlos takes the top on the art side. He actually does sell his stuff as artwork too, so there's that. But we're here for the technical details oftentimes, and he does the very artistic stuff. But anyways, back to this picture from Greg Scott. This was the Saturn 1 launch table. This is where, unfortunately, I think they lost their lives on that.
This was the pure oxygen atmosphere Apollo 1 fire where all 3 astronauts lost their life during a ground test.
You have an image of the plaque, actually.
Yeah, so let me pull that up here. I'm looking at the thumbnails, but they're not populated on my side. They're all just showing the regular thumbnail. So I'm hoping I have it here somewhere.
Should be right next to this, because you would flip between the two.
Well, this one's an older photo from 2019. So I need to go backwards, I think. That's not it. I just had to grab a random one to get close. But I did want to mention something off of Greg Scott's photo here. This is Slick 40. This is what we should see, but in a bigger scale at the launch site. So we've got nitrogen tanks, I believe, high pressure gas nitrogen, and then this is their water deluge. So this is non-potable water or potable water, something like that. And these basically are the water deluge tanks. And so there's a pipe that comes from here, and I believe it goes down and connects to these. So the pressure comes in from the top, and we actually have seen this piece, or a piece just like it, for our side of the water deluge system at Starbase. So that's pretty neat. Let me pull up all of these other pictures. These are the thumbnails for his Twitter. I like to go through and pull up everything I can from everybody. This one's here. I'm looking for that.
You are nothing if you are not thorough, my friend. There's the plaque. Jinx.
So yeah, just a beautiful monument for that. So this is dedicated living memory of the crew of Apollo 1.
And it was Friday, January 27th, 1967.
Glad you read that before I switched.
I'm good like that.
It does kind of is an interesting view, because this is like where we've come from on launch tables as well. Just this is a historic launch table that's still present. It doesn't have all the infrastructure, but it's just a concrete structure with steel plates.
Yeah, it's a good beginning. But we should go back to the launch site.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm going to do is comparing it to our launch table. So it's very similar, because this launch table, it's a concrete columns surrounded by steel.
Yeah, it's the same shape too, similar at least.
Yeah, keeps it up off the ground. It's
have
a
a
good
lot
idea.
of the same characteristics. Yeah, if it worked for one,
idea.
it would make sense that, or it would follow that they would reuse a design that's similar.
But I just like that ideas that are good don't ever go away. They come back, and this is one of those.
That's a good thing, though, right? That's what you want.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to look at like N1 or any of the other ones. They will have compressed gases going through these trenches, and it's like you're doing a lot of damage, and you have to replace all of that, and it's never a good direction to go. So having it above ground like this was such a brilliant move.
This is the last one with the cowbells.
Yeah, this is the only 2 cowbells left.
Literally.
But they do have the interesting little directions that you could basically have. The ullage thrusters still allows you to kind of go up, and like both of these are kind of in the down direction, but this one's really down. This one's kind of down, but mostly sideways. So it translates the entire vehicle, but this one rotates it. There's so many cool features about these ullage thrusters that you could go on for days about, or at least I could. I'm going to actually jump over to this side of the site. I requested it from Mauricio directly. So, looking at the, like, down the scope, I was trying to find out if this area has been cleared out, and it looks like they did. So this area right here, I'm kind of looking through. Let me give you another quick view of it from the air. To describe what we were looking for. It's this pile of stuff.
Oh, thank you for the reference.
Yeah, so I had to actually think about that. I wasn't being clear, but this pile of stuff here is not visible at all. Like, you should see something And from that side view, we don't see anything. So I suspect...
And Mauricio is standing to the left, correct?
He's standing down the road. Need a better view that's more a wider view of that. So this will take a second, sorry. Looking for like the widest view we have here. Perfect. So Mauricio is standing about here in order to look down this direction over here to spot any of this, and there's nothing visible. So I would expect something over here. They've got this pile of stuff here, but they've been clearing up everything. Suborbital, orbital side, anything that can go, goes. So I would expect that these will either go in a shipping container or they get kicked over to like the crane yard or something. As soon as they can, they will probably clear this up as well. This is one of the probably last things, because it wasn't in that big pile that's over there that I think is pretty much gone. I saw totes being brought in the other night, and they were bringing out totes full of stuff. So I expect that's what that was going on. Last bit here. This is what you should see on an air gas vaporizer when it's being used. This is basically to keep part of the system cool. Is you actually will pressurize tanks, so gaseous tanks, and you'll run it through a vaporizer like this, and it lowers the pressure in these liquid nitrogen tanks, and that's what you're seeing here is the liquid nitrogen is going through here, it's warming up and gasifying it. So that's just a quick little thing that Mauricio had that was a little Easter egg since it's Easter. Might as well point that
It's
out.
interesting that only one of those tanks has nitrogen on it.
That one just says liquid, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's also nitrogen.
Yeah, no, and the above code was similar. The little
Yeah,
triangle.
60,000 liters
Sorry.
and 300, yeah.
Yeah. Anywho.
Speaking of cleaning things up, still we've got all the COPVs that are black that were over for the water deluge system. They're sitting here.
You said they're COPVs for the water deluge system?
Yes, so they're going to be the high pressure gas. Basically, these are cylinders, but they're tanks, so gaseous tanks that you can hold. For tanks like these, they could go up into the hundreds of bar. They don't have a huge opening, so it's not a lot of flow all at once, but you can really push on that water to get it moving. And this would basically be for two ways to look at it. The water deluge system will be water hammer tanks, I think, eventually, and you'd still utilize these with that. But for now, it's just a pressure-fed system, not a pump-fed system.
Wow, okay.
Or at least, so far, what we've seen. We haven't seen any pumps or large systems that would indicate otherwise. And they don't have a lot of electricity here to do that. Most of the electricity is being utilized for the pumps for the orbital fuel farm. So quick update on the back of the berm. They're getting ready to pour concrete. They could do that over the weekend here. It's just about ready to do that, but there's still a lot of stuff in the way. So they might put this off until after the test flight.
It's also Easter weekend.
True. Would be a big one. So most likely it's not going to happen until after the test flight, because there's a whole WDR campaign, and you might be able to squeeze it in on like Thursday, Friday, but it would have to be scheduled in advance. You've got the batch concrete plant would have to be notified that they're doing something. Let's see. I think that was it for the majority of the things to talk about this week. We do have, I think, some questions or donations you want to go over?
Donations real fast, and then I'll hand it over to Mauricio. We want to thank Credence for donating $10 and says, thanks for the pictures, comments, and rabbit holes. Rabbits will never stop. No bedrock, but the water will slow them down. Very funny.
And it's Easter, so plenty of rabbit holes.
There you go. And then, yeah, Jim Cavett donated $5. Thanks for the fastest 3 hours every weekend. You all rock. And I agree, the 3 hours does go fast. Scat1975 donated £2.47 and says 24/7 static fire, static fire, static fire, rocket, rocket, rocket. Or launching rocket. There you go, whatever. Something like that. And then John Dopker donated $5 and says, oh, hey, Oh, I guess it's a question, so I'll leave that for Mauricio. Mauricio, it's all you.
All right, we have the first question here from Benjamin Klein. Methane is lighter than air, so it might accumulate in the OLM or under the shielding on it. What did SpaceX do to prevent this buildup through a leak or disconnection of RQD from the engines?
Well, so that's an interesting one. The original idea was that they were letting it flow out. They still have a bit of flow that would allow it to go out, but you can't really go up. As you described, methane does float towards the top, but they have not only methane that can be in that environment going from a liquid to a gas from the ship QDs for the booster. They also have oxygen going through those systems as well. So you really do not want to have those be leaking and mix. And it's already an air environment which has plenty of oxygen in it. I would hope that they have a purge system. So just like underneath the launch table, there is a basically a line that has nitrogen that goes through it for FireX. I'm hoping that they have that same line or similar one connected into the launch table that they would basically purge out the launch table prior to launch. That would basically remove as much oxygen as possible. So if you do have a leak with methane, there's not enough to really do much because it's basically be an interaction between nitrogen and methane. And I guess the quick piece to look at is this is that line right here that is the nitrogen right here. So follow that the rest of the way and you basically have this, I think, right here. And then this will be the water side of the FireX system. So I'm hoping that they have this connected into the table somehow.
All right, the next question is here from Trent Telenko. Does anyone see a Starship suborbital test to try out the chopsticks for mid-air catch practice?
SpaceX, I think, has said that they will not do any other suborbital hops. So, I mean, they always could, but per their PEA, they've said they will not. And it does make sense that they want to do the launches more for the orbital or even the trajectory brings them back to Starbase that's closer to suborbital, and they could then try to land with the chopsticks for a suborbital hop. But it's still pretty much orbital speeds at that point. So you're testing everything out. The Starship is the one where it's a question of, do they want to try catching a Starship with the chopsticks? And I don't think they're close yet. I think they have their priorities set straight, which is we need to catch a booster first. So we've got these little pins right here to catch it by, and then the grid fins would be the secondary system that would basically grab onto the chopsticks if it kind of misses a little bit. And that's a precarious position to be in, but it should work. The original FCC filing back of last year, I believe, it did indicate that they wish to do a catch of the booster, and I thought, oh, this is going to be amazing. They're going to launch these soon, and they're going to do an attempt at catching. I think their simulations showed that they could. However, the ship right now, it's just not ready. They need more testing of the whole kick-flip maneuver and everything else before they're ready to do that. And all the orbital launches are going to be directed towards making sure the ship works first off. Then you're starting to launch payloads. That's going to be the next objective. After that, it's all of the HLS stuff. And HLS is still technically going to be very interested in Starship launches at the beginning because it's the same subsystem, but without tiles, without flaps. And eventually they will want to be able to catch these and be reusable as well. So another way to look at it as a quick rabbit hole is steel is really great under tension. So think of steel cables. Really thin structures can hold lots of weight. So tension is better than compression. So that's why you would always want to catch a booster, is you're putting it under tension. Same thing with the ship. The only exceptions are you have to land on the moon and on Mars, and you have to have landing legs for those. So we're going to have an interesting mix and match in the future for those. Any other questions, Mauricio?
Yes, I have a question here from Matthew Pliss. I'm beginning to think that the third tower at the Cape is actually intended to be a replacement for Boca Chica in the event of a catastrophic rut. Same with the OLM. Any thoughts?
So the OLM at 39 or at Roberts Road, they actually have two of them. I think one is mostly built. The second one I think is in pieces and is being constructed, and those are being done inside of Hangar M. Um, the one that's built mostly is going to be for 39A, and I think the second one will be for 49, and they're going to be building two at 49, and that would be for the two launch towers that are at Roberts Road would also be for 49. So they have gone through and looked at doing survey information at 49. So they're pretty soon ready to do some digging. It's just a question of like what other hurdles do they have to pass in order to make 49 a goal that they can work on. So right now, Roberts Road itself has been, I think, deprioritized. That's my guess. I think Zach would agree on that. Is that they're looking at Boca Chica as the priority right now. They want to get the production and lines going and understand like what do they really need. But when they're ready for production at Roberts Road, it's going to be crazy. Like Star Factory there is already bigger than what we have here at Boca Chica. We do have the tents, but those will probably go away here over the next coming year, and we'll add additions to the Star Factory. But the end goal is that the replacement idea wouldn't necessarily be true. It could be if something does happen, you could just ship things over. However, a catastrophic failure of the launch tower, or that would take out the launch tower, means that we never got above the launch tower with the ship, or it exploded right onto it, and that would be bad. I don't think we're going to be in that position. Like SpaceX is thinking that they will be able to fly. It means that they're going to get past max Q or close to max Q. Otherwise, they would not fly.
All right, the next question is from Rocket Prophet. What is the purpose of the gap between the two layers of the plates? I believe he's talking about the ones on the OLM.
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit ago. So these would be described as burn plates. It means that you can replace them. But there is a tweet with Elon saying that it looks like we're going to be passing water through these, or a system with these. I expect there might be pipes that goes in and then they come out the top. So this is what Chrome Kiwi threw up in SketchUp. So it's just a quick interpretation of what he thinks, and this is close to what I think it as well. I think there's a substructure. Zach thinks that there isn't a substructure here, that it's basically has four sides that are holding it together, and then you're going to put water in and pressurize it and keep it up and support it that way. I don't think that quite makes sense, because you have a large surface area that's going to hold part of a rocket lifting off. The thrust that will be coming down will be about 7,500 metric tons of thrust in all directions. So this would be taking some of that, especially as it's lifting off of the launch table and hasn't cleared the tower. There's like going to be 400 feet ish of flames. It's going to be incredible. So I don't think that there would be enough structure if it didn't have these parts in it. I could kind of take halfway in between that it already has some piping in there, and that's what we might be seeing, and they've got a structure as well in here. But that's kind of what we were describing before. And this is on the top of the table.
Yeah, my guess, Thomas, is there's not going to be piping inside it. To make it work, you've got to have good thermal conduct between the water and the top plate, so it sucks all the heat away from the top plate. So I think it's going to be a flooded structure. So probably a water inlet pipe in one corner and a water outlet pipe in the other, and tie them together. But you probably will want some structure, and I suspect those little circles are where the inner structure has been welded to the top plate.
And these are the top plates again that we're talking about here, the real thing. So it's those little pieces that right there that are the question of are these holes, are these structure? It could be a mix and match of both. But yeah, I think you're right, Dave. I think of the paper cup analogy. So if you're ever in like Boy Scouts or anything, and you've had a campfire, and you can put a paper cup in the campfire, you have to have like tongs to do it, but you basically can sit there and watch the water boil away. It'll burn the edges of the cup, but the cup itself stays completely intact, holding all the water contents, and yet it's on fire, or would be on fire, but it's boiling off the water on the inside. So this would be a great analogy of that. It's wicking away the heat.
Yeah, I saw a great YouTube yesterday. I don't know if I can find it now. Somebody had suspended a plastic grocery bag, so it's like, 1/1000th of an inch thick plastic over a fire, filled it with 1.5 gallons of water, and threw vegetables, a fish, a bunch of stuff in it, and made soup, and got the water to a boil. But because that's all it was, boiling water temperature, the plastic never melted.
Yeah, plastic actually lets heat through very well, so you can actually look at an infrared camera and watch. Like, you could have somebody have a plastic bag over their face. You can't see them in visual, but infrared you can. So thermal, it does work really well at transferring heat through those. I just would never do that for the sake of the plastic bags. They leach a lot of stuff. That sounds disgusting. Otherwise, it would be fine if it was a food safe bag, but that is crazy.
Well, like I said, it was just amazing because you think of that plastic is so flimsy it can barely hold its own weight, and here it is holding 1 gallon of water and boiling it. And I think that's going to be the same sort of concept they're trying here. That's why water jacket is such a interesting idea, as it allows them to flow water through it, flash it to steam basically at the output, and extract a lot of heat.
Yeah, and I do think that same concept might be applying to the elements that are down below for the water deluge. I mean, it's all technically water deluge. This is the second stage of the water deluge, which would be the post liftoff part of the water deluge that you would want, because you don't want to get water all over the bells and the equipment down here, especially when it's got cryo and it's freezing and everything else. But I think pretty much with that, we can go ahead and wrap up. We're 2 minutes after you start.
You did good, Thomas. You did good. Don't worry.
Oh, we have one last question here, if we can, from John Docker, $5 donation.
Oh, absolutely.
What was the dangly bits that was hanging on S-24 that made them lower it back down during the stacking?
I
know
don't
about
the answer
this?
to that one. Do you know, Dave?
Wait, I know.
I don't
You
know
know?
what it was. It looked like it was a cable they brought down. It might have been a remove before flight pendant even.
Well, the way he ripped it out of there, it looked like it was a remove by flight. It looked like whatever it was coiled up, and it came undone as it was being lifted, because it wasn't like that in the beginning when they started lifting it. So it occurred during the lift, and it just seems like Dave said, it was either something that should have been removed earlier, or they didn't really care about it because the guy just went up there and he yanks it right down, and then they lowered it onto the booster. So that was the end of that.
And
That's
I
funny.
don't know if we commented on the Starlink in this picture here.
It's on the shipping container. There's Starlinks on a lot of shipping containers. I think
Wait,
they
we're
copied
saying
Lab.
goodbye, friends. This
Dave,
is the
you
after
and your
show.
rabbit holes. You're as bad as I am.
This is for the
Ooh, look,
after show.
a red cone.
So you want to start, Thomas?
Yeah, it's been enjoyable again this week, presenting to everybody here. I hope we answered a lot of questions, and I even hope we brought up a few more that you can ask yourself on Starship and everything else. But with that, I say adieu. See you next week. Meaning Star?
That was amazing. You say adieu, do you? Thank you all for joining us this week. Don't forget, if you can, we would love to have you become an RGV supporter either through Patreon or through YouTube. And with that comes special perks like joining us here in chat, where Thomas will get to continue the conversation with Dave and anyone else who wants to join us in chat. But I wanted to say thank you and hope to see you next week. Mauricio?
Yes, thanks to everybody that donated and all the viewers that stuck around to the end. Thank you so much for that. And stay tuned for the flyover. This is by far the best week we've had this coming week. So there's a high possibility of a flyover. So be on the lookout for that. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
All right. You want to say it, Thomas? Dave?
I'll take it.
All right.
And thank you, everybody. I'll thank you, everybody, for another great week. And next week is a special week, obviously, potential
Launch.
wet dress rehearsal. No,
Oh,
wet
yeah,
dress.
yeah. Wet dress rehearsal. You're right.
Week after that's now probably launched for everything. And with that, we will say main engine cutoff, stage separation complete. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.